Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 91. We're back this week to talk about pop culture things that interest us, and sometimes there's whiskey. My name is John, and I am joined, as always, by Andrea.
Hello, everybody. Hey, John. How's it going?
Good, good. You're looking spiffy tonight. Got the red lip.
Thank you. Thank you. You're looking dapper yourself. We've got a whole black and white
Yeah.
deal going on. Black, white, and red. I wonder what we could be talking about.
What a tease. Yeah, we're going to be talking James Bond later in the show. Um, there is a movie that came out this last year, No Time to Die. I finally got to see it,
Hmm.
and with it, Craig's tenure is wrapped up. So we're going to be kind of talking Daniel Craig's tenure and his films and
Hmm.
his role and all that. We'll get to that in the latter half of the show. However, before that, I mentioned whiskey. There are usually drink holidays.
Hmm.
Are there some this week?
There are. Earlier this week, January 17th, was a double holiday. So you can pick and choose, pick your poison. There's Hot Buttered Rum Day, or it was National Bootlegger Day.
Mm,
Which is one of those,
okay.
like, fun generic holidays that I just feel like is an excuse to be like, "What's that? Oh, it's, like, 7 different types of alcohol that are possible? Cool, let's have a drink."
Yeah.
So, kind of appreciate those.
Uh, I'm trying to remember if I've had a hot butter rum. I feel like I must
I
have at
have
some
not.
point. Really?
I
Okay.
no. I
All right.
looked it up because I was like, "Can't actually mean, like, hot buttered rum. Can it, like is it butter and
Mhm.
rum?" So I had to
Right.
look it up, and I know I've never had it before, um, even though I come from a family who loves to have, like, lots of different holiday specialty
Right.
drinks, especially around Christmas. So I was like, "Oh, maybe I have." Nope, I have not.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. I think I've made it. I feel like I've made it.
You made it yourself?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
As you say, for a holiday or something, that warming kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean, it is kind of one of those, like, weird things where you, like, think it's gonna be gross, like, based on the ingredient list, but probably tastes really amazing, especially in, like, the depths of winter that we are
Sure.
in now.
Yep. Right. So, um, presumably, then you're not trying hot butter rum for the first time tonight.
I am not,
Um,
I am not. Unfortunately, you're not gonna get, my live reaction whenever I do try hot buttered rum, unless I do a reaction video 'cause,
yeah.
I am not shy about that. But no, I decided that, I was gonna go with, the theme of tonight and what we were discussing for my drink. So,
Okay.
I have made myself, in honor of 007, a martini.
Okay. What kind of martini?
Vodka martini, shaken not stirred.
Okay. All right. Hey, Renato's in chat. How's it
Hey,
going? Martini SZN. Oh, shit.
season.
What's that? Am I missing
Season?
something? Yeah. Oh, season. Oh, wow. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Um, great. I feel a little bad about my cocktail tonight, actually. Um,
Uh-oh.
just
Does that mean
because
you did not?
no, I definitely am going with a drink to honor the Bond franchise.
Okay.
My cocktail is from For Your Eyes Only, which is one of my favorite Bond films and definitely my favorite Roger Moore film. Um, it's a Negroni, which
Oh,
is
yeah, sure.
great, but the part that I feel kind of bad about is that this is trendy, I suppose. It's a pre-mixed Negroni.
Oh,
It
okay.
comes in a bottle,
Okay.
pre-mixed. It's actually from Trader Joe's. Um, hipster millennial myself, I guess, shopping there. And yeah, it's already pre-done. I just add a twist of orange,
Okay.
and that's it. I mean, a Negroni is a great drink. Big fan. So, but this actually opened a while ago. I think
Mhm.
I should make some progress on this. So,
Well, I mean, you're very Bond-esque in the sense that you're not mixing your own drink because quite often he does not. You know what I mean? I
valid,
mean, he
valid.
might pour himself like a little scotch or some whiskey,
Yes,
but he doesn't like
straight
we don't watch
Smirnoff.
him, Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He does shots of stuff or like takes it straight, but he doesn't like mix his own drink. So,
Hmm. Yep.
there
Does
you
did
go.
that ever? Yeah. Thank you. I mean, you rationalized it very well for me. I appreciate it very much.
I'm trying.
Um,
I'm trying.
is there um uh did it ever bother you in any of the Bond films that he's supposed to be a man of exquisite taste,
Mhm.
and sometimes the product placement, the deals made, force him to have, like I say, just straight Smirnoff
Yeah.
or just a Heineken, or I mean,
I was
whatever
gonna I
brand
was gonna
placement
say
must.
if you weren't gonna bring it up, Heineken was the one I was gonna bring up because there was like some pretty large outrage when Craig was like ordering up a Heineken and appearing in Heineken commercials, and it was just like,
Yes.
"Excuse you?" Like,
Yeah.
I don't think so. No. Uh, I do remember like the furor that kind of erupted when that happened, especially because I feel like Bond is not only, kind of associated more like high-end stuff,
Mhm.
but also like liquor. Like Bond isn't like
Yeah.
sitting around on a beach somewhere like kicking it with like a Corona or a Heineken. If he's not drinking liquor, he's drinking champagne. Do you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like that's I mean, I might be clouded by, like, my love of Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan. I mean, they were really, like, when they were
Uh-huh.
with the ladies, champagne drinkers.
Right. Yeah.
But all I'm saying is, like, I felt like that was so ingrained for so long, we just couldn't have, like you said, like, Smirnoff popping up or, like, Heineken popping up.
Mhm.
Not okay.
I mean, it's not. Is it unreasonable to imagine that James Bond would have a beer once in a while? I mean, I don't know.
It's not unreasonable, but I don't know why, but I don't wanna see it.
Sure. Sure. It is kind of one of those things, like, it kinda, I don't know. Makes sense that it would stand out. No matter where he's at, everybody else is drinking swill, and he's gotta find the top
Right,
shelf something to make it
right.
work. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, even when he's, off the clock and he's in his differing, I'm out phases and we see
Mhm.
him relaxing on a beach somewhere or, just kind of out of the game, he's still like doing tequila shots or, drinking
Mhm.
like some whiskey out the decanter. He's not,
Yep.
I don't know. I don't see him like lying on the beach with this summer's beach read and a Heineken, just getting a tan and chillaxing.
Okay. Alright. Hot take.
Hot take.
Um, all right. Well, we're gonna get into James Bond more later. In the meantime, what else have you been up to this week? Anything fun?
Sure. It's actually been a pretty busy week for me, lots of work to do, but I was really excited about this last week, and I managed to squeeze in the first two episodes of Peacemaker on HBO Max. Definite thumbs up. It's, it's a great continuation of the Suicide Squad, obviously with
Okay.
James Gunn at the helm. I didn't really have my doubts about that. But it definitely lived up to what I was expecting in my mind for the series. I think it's a great start so far. And while I do definitely think that to get everything that's going on, you should watch the Suicide Squad because there are a number of callbacks to that. Even if, you just wanted to be introduced, I think you could be introduced to Peacemaker from this series. I think it would make a lot more sense to be introduced to him from the Suicide Squad. Um, but there's like a lot of little nuggets that James Gunn has tied into this that will really improve your enjoyment of the series. So definitely watch the Suicide Squad, then watch Peacemaker. you're gonna love it.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's a good litmus test then too. If you are enjoying the movie, move on to the series.
Absolutely. Cannot say enough good things about John Cena and his portrayal, his
Wow.
commitment to
Okay.
the portrayal of Peacemaker. Also, his sidekick Eagly is the best. It's chock full of CGI and I love it and it's hilarious. It's absurd and it fits so perfectly. So,
Okay.
2 thumbs
Great.
up. Another thumbs up for the other, kind of pop culture thing that I was able to do this week. I got a little bit into Crossroads of Twilight, which is not a Twilight book, but is in fact the 10th novel in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan.
No, we
So
discussed last week. It's not a Twilight book. It's a Twilight supernatural crossover.
that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Mhm.
Crossroads Demon plus
Yes.
plus
Yeah.
Twilight. Yes, it is definitely none of those things. It is Wheel of Time, and it's good. It is on the tail end of what many people do consider kind of like the drag in the series, like that middle
Okay.
stretch of the books where like Robert Jordan got a little bit lost in what he was doing, and you can kind of tell, but you can also kind of tell as the book progresses, it's about to pick up. So I'm excited to like move forward, get to the end, to the good stuff. So.
Nice. All right. Cool. Well, that's fun. Yeah, I got to get on the Peacemaker. Um, I didn't get to try that. I'd mentioned last week I'm giving up on Boba Fett, so I didn't have
Yeah.
that this week. I kept going on my anime streak here. The new stuff that is relevant is the latest Demon Slayer. I watched the
Oh, sure.
seventh episode of the latest season, and God, these episodes just fly by. You know, I'm definitely not used to watching anime these days, one episode at a time, and then waiting
Oh,
a
sure.
week. So yeah, it's just over like that, and there's been a lot going on.
Yeah, I do
Um,
forget how short they can be. I mean, they're
yeah,
especially when they're like half-hour episodes, they're really like 18 to 20 minutes. And it's just
yeah,
like,
it's like
well, bam.
23-minute episode minus the intro, minus the outro, and then whatever little short thing they often do on things. You know, little like
Yep.
um, skit comedy thing or something like that. So
Yep.
yeah, it shortens up. Um I was listening to a few other people talk about this, thought that there wasn't enough happening in this season, and I don't know. To me, it's flying. It's very interesting. It's very
Mhm.
beautiful. So yeah.
Excellent.
And then No Time to Die. We're kind of like piecing together what this week was going to be, and I bought finally the physical 4K disc of No Time to Die and Dune. So I have a couple, and um, I always go to see Bond right away in the theater,
Mhm.
but this one had been such a weird, tumultuous delay coming out. It's going to be delayed again, type of thing, and then it ultimately released when I was right in the middle of working. So
Right.
shamed as I may be, I finally got around to it. So, and then I don't think oh, yeah, it was, I didn't have it for the last episode. I got my green belt in Taekwondo. So passed
Nice.
my test.
Congrats.
Thanks. So
Awesome.
moving along,
Mhm.
I feel bad. There's a competition coming up that I don't really want to compete, but I kind of feel pressured to like show up for the gym, you know. But I'm gonna be gone then, so I
Okay.
won't make it. But yeah,
You're gonna have to do it at some point.
think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do some sort of
You're gonna have to live
competition.
out your own like Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, like I mean, come on. Like,
Well,
how
we
much have
already
we
talked
watched
about
of
Mike
that?
starting the rival gym. You know,
Yes,
way
exactly.
over and yeah.
So you're gonna have to know what this is like when Mike does start his rival gym so that you can be
Well,
like,
let me
"I'm
just
ready for
say,
you."
if Mike's rival gym and ours were competing in our respective martial art disciplines, his would win. Okay. I mean, if we're not, and that's nothing to do with like speaking on the quality of the gym, wherever that's
Sure.
speaking on the technique. Like you combine taekwondo with something else if you're gonna be fighting a wrestler, you
Mhm.
don't come at him with you come at him with wrestling, you know. So yeah. But if we just do no rules, then we'll see. Then it's like just
Okay.
free fighting. I don't
Just
know.
freestyling it.
Yeah. So that's it, I guess, there for our weeks. Not too much crazy going on.
Mhm.
News. There are a number of news stories that
Crazy there.
I think, yeah, I mean, I don't need to spend forever on them because I want to get to our main topic, but at the same time, damn. Um
That's a
I
great summation. Damn.
yeah. Well, I woke up whatever day it was this week,
Is it
and
like Tuesday maybe?
I think so. Yeah, and I just didn't even believe it hardly.
Mhm.
Um, that Microsoft has bought Activision.
Yes.
That's I mean, Activision makes basically the biggest
Blizzard
game in the
King.
world.
Mhm.
Yeah, Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And now that's a Microsoft property. This is not only I made the joke is like they couldn't stand that what was the that Take Two had just made the biggest acquisition in gaming history the other week. They're like, like hold my
Hold
beer.
my beer.
Uh, because that
Uh,
was like, you
yeah.
know, what was that, 12 billion or something like that? This is almost $69 billion
Mhm. Yeah. I can't even.
cash.
I can't even.
Oh my God. I mean,
You think like Phil's out there somewhere just like filling up suitcases, just
he
like
just, yeah,
laughing.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
happening.
Oh my God. Yeah. He's in the Microsoft vault taking
Yep.
stacks
Taking
of
out the billions.
100s, slowly yeah. Mhm, mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Is it weird that I could actually see that?
Well, Renato, if you're still in chat, I want to hear your thoughts on this because if I recall, you're a PlayStation gamer, and
Mhm.
I didn't want to talk to someone because this is, for the industry at large. I think there's going to be a few effects, and from my perspective, the way I've seen things go recent, I think there'll
Mhm.
be largely positive effects. Activision has been embroiled in lawsuits.
Mhm.
Bobby Kotick, their CEO, is in trouble. Allegedly tried to have someone killed or threatened it anyways. Blizzard has had PR nightmare after PR nightmare,
Right.
banning people for saying something about the Chinese government, and then coming back on it, and then again like culture problem. I don't know how much is founded and how much isn't. I haven't like
Right.
followed it all because I honestly don't, generally speaking, care that much about Activision, Blizzard, or King. Um, but the industry does. A
Mhm.
lot of people do, and I think this shakeup could not only like there's studios that have been at Activision that just were taken off their own projects and said, "Hey, guess what? You're just going to be a Call of Duty support studio now.
Right.
So just help us crank out this thing every year." That a lot of people have agreed has like seen a downward trajectory in quality,
Mhm.
and it becomes soulless work for other people that were, invested in doing their own projects or different things. And so it's a whole number of things that now under a new umbrella, when they're at a weak point, Microsoft comes in and buys them. This could be
Mhm.
very good for the company and for people that like those games and some of those
Mhm.
franchises. But it's also nuts because Microsoft owns Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the
Mhm.
Dragon.
Mhm.
I mean, I blame this on Sony for not locking those mascots up years ago,
Right.
but it's still nevertheless insane. So I've talked a lot now on this. What are your thoughts? Have you seen coverage on it, or what do you think?
Yeah, so a lot of the coverage that I've seen recently has been of interviews with Phil Spencer talking about like those kinds of lesser known non Call of Duty games that he's interested in reviving. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of people are genuinely excited to hear that. I mean, everybody knows Call of Duty isn't going away. You know what I mean? Like, they're
Right.
not buying Activision and just being like, we're just gonna like fade Call of Duty. Like, it's not happening. So that's definitely still gonna get new games, new support, like new development. But I think people are really excited about like kind of these like forgotten games that do need like some revival, bringing back to the forefront, and teams that can have, it sounds like they have the support of like the top guy to have that creative control back, to not just be like, okay, we're, supporting Call of Duty. We're going to have time now to work on like our own IP. So
Mhm.
I'm excited about that. Like, I'm excited about this interview, where Phil's like, yeah, Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, Spyro. Like, I couldn't even believe the roster of games that we were getting. Like, obviously we knew we were getting like Call of Duty, but like look at all this other stuff. And he was like, I'm so excited to like revive Guitar Hero, which, I mean, there's a throwback for you. Like, that was so hot when we were in college and we were just, everybody was
Yep.
like freaking out about Guitar Hero, and then it died hard. And I would be so pumped to pick that back up with something new.
Sure.
So yeah, so I'm really excited about this merger. I mean, I know it's not gonna happen for a long time. There's like
Yep.
miles of legal yardage that they have to go through, and
Yep.
everything has to be, signed off on. Although I don't, as of now, see any like major roadblocks to that. It's just gonna take time. But
Yep.
whenever it does happen, I'm excited.
So, what are your thoughts on like, I mean, the consolidation of the market? I know we've talked about this a little bit.
Sure.
We see it in other industries too, in the movie industry or whatever. All of a sudden, look how big. I think some of it's being split now, but AT&T just gobbling. It's like
Right.
Time Warner and as HBO, as Comedy Central, just all these things that you don't necessarily associate being under
Right.
one umbrella. It starts getting piled up,
Yeah.
and so we're yeah.
They are, I mean, like you said, they are actually selling pieces off now. So they're kind of
Hmm.
like breaking that up, um, which HBO has mentioned several different times on like various platforms and programs that they run, that, AT&T is no longer going to be their overarching owner. So, I mean, I worry-ish about it, but um yeah, I mean, I think those sorts of things are proof that, like, just because this deal happens once doesn't mean it's always gonna be staying that way.
Hmm.
I mean, Xbox in particular, I feel like has been a little hungry for acquisitions,
Hmm.
and I feel like that's probably in response to the fact that, like, PlayStation has outgunned them in terms of, like, actual console production, but hasn't quite got the edge on them in terms of game production. So I feel like Xbox is just like focusing in and leaning hard into things like Game Pass and like game production, rather than like, I don't know that we're ever going to catch up in the console market. So let's just like do our stuff with actual games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, the argument there is, of course, that okay, well, Microsoft didn't make any of these games, so if they had the edge on games, as well, it's because they just bought them all.
Mm,
They didn't
hmm.
make them. So,
Yes and no, because we don't. I mean, obviously, nobody's going to argue that they made Call of Duty, but we don't know what new stuff is going to come out from this acquisition. And
right.
like, if Xbox feels like, okay, we've got the authority to say like, hey, smaller teams, you don't have to be just like Call of Duty support system. Go develop some
Yeah.
stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, I think it was, they did a Tony Hawk Pro Skater kind of remaster, and I don't know, they needed more help for Call of Duty, so they took that team instead of doing another Tony Hawk and going forward with that. That's
Right.
the team. They said, nope, help Call of Duty. So,
Right.
um,
And
it's
Xbox has certainly got the resources to say like, "Hey, existing teams, you don't need to be that. We can
yeah.
hire new people.
Uh, obviously, consolidation has a scary element to it because
Yeah.
if the one doing the consolidating handles things poorly, you affect a large swath of the industry.
Mhm.
And so I can't say I'm just like for consolidation or against consolidation. It depends on the situation. It depends on how I feel that the individual company is going to manage. I think that
Mhm.
their Microsoft has been of late buying companies that are, other than like needing to make more money, are self-running. They
Mhm.
stand on their own 2 feet. They've been in production for a long time. They're doing their thing. So th- there's a little less, they can be a little more hands off and
Mhm.
just offer people cash for creativity. That's the like idealistic view of it, you know. But there's a whole swath of people as well that are pretty upset because they see the writing on the wall that, you know, a lot of their beloved titles aren't going to come to the platform of their choice. And
Yes.
I'm personally not looking forward to the next year and a half of
Of whining.
people. When is this going to be exclusive? Is this going to be exclusive? And every interview, like, was this going to be, are you taking this away from everybody? All this kind of thing. Um, but it's already begun, and
Mhm.
there's already uh, uh, game journalists like fighting amongst each other online.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've seen any of that, but
I
they're
have, yeah.
so it's going to be something to watch. And um, if anyone's out there has very differing views, please leave us comments. Let us know. I'm interested in what people have to say about this. Um, I try not to come across as too one sided. I
Mhm.
just it does make me happy that in my mind, Microsoft they've decided that they're committed to gaming.
Mhm.
It's a core pillar of the company. They're putting their might behind it. And the person
Mhm.
running that is a person that's excited and understands games. And
Yes.
so it's a company that's offering great value and services for people. And I just feel like since Phil Dominus Maximus Aurelius Spencer took charge, he's making all the right decisions, basically. It's all the right moves. And but at the same time, I understand people being worried that, their favorite thing is getting gobbled up by the competition. So um
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you on either front. Like I said, I read the interviews and was really excited that like Phil was, pumped about a broad swath of games and not just like we're going to focus on, what's we know is going to make us money. Um
mhm.
so yeah, so like you could just like feel the sort of, geeking out, if you will, of him at this acquisition over being like, "Oh my god, look at all these like crazy titles that I just can't wait to like dig
Yep.
up and like give new life to." So it's hard not to kind of get swept up in that same excitement when you hear like how passionate he is. So I'm excited about that, like you, and understanding of people who prefer games on other consoles, worried about, yeah, I really love this game, but am I not going to be able to play it, or am I going to, have to switch over? At the end of the day, I guess I'm not as loyal to like a gaming console that like I wouldn't, switch over if it was for a game I love. Like you could put, I mean, I've used this before, but you could put Res Evil 4 on anything and tell me it's now exclusive to that, and I'm like, "Cool, going to get it," because that's how much I
Yeah.
love it. So I'm just not
Yeah.
like I'm not a console, you know, hardcore like line in the sand person. It's about the
Yep.
game for me. So,
Sure. Well, I'll offer two more points.
sure.
One, I think that the resources that someone like Microsoft affords does really allow for that kind of game diversity. Whereas
Mhm.
Sony has historically, they've, said before, they've been one decision or two away from folding it in. from like filing bankruptcy. If it's like if the PlayStation doesn't succeed, if they lose too much money on it, they're
Right.
in real trouble. And
Right.
so, understandably, they found the game type that their studios are good at, and they've
Mhm.
been doubling down on those things. And they
Yeah, they
sell
make
millions
safer
of
choices.
copies. Yeah, and you can't just go out there and make a whole bunch of weird stuff because you don't know if it's going to pay off. But on
Right.
Microsoft's front, the product is Game Pass. So it lives because it has variety and diversity. It
Mhm.
it di- it dies if it's got only one kind of game, even if that's the
Right.
kind of game that most people like,
Right.
because a bunch of other people don't. And
Exactly.
so and the other thing I think people are missing here is, yeah, they're getting so tied up with the box, the platform. I really think Microsoft knows this, and everybody else in the industry that's doing this stuff knows this. Within the decade, most people in the Western world, probably Southeast Asia too, I don't know, are going to be just taking a controller of their choice, and like
Mhm.
like you'd open up Netflix or you'd open up
Right.
Hulu. It doesn't depend on the box. You just stream the thing. So you
Right.
subscribe to Microsoft Game Pass, you subscribe to PlayStation whatever, you
Right.
subscribe to Amazon Luna, whatever your thing of choice is, and there's your catalog. And I know a
Yep.
lot of people will not like that. It's very far from traditional gaming. But like the writing is on the wall. It's
Mhm.
just it's happened to every other medium. Um, it's gonna happen to games.
Mhm.
So like don't get too attached to your box because it's not gonna matter. It's
Right.
not gonna matter,
Exactly.
and there'll
Exactly.
be boxes there for like you want the highest fidelity, you just like that's gonna exist for a while, especially
Mhm.
in places without great internet infrastructure,
Mhm.
you know. But a lot of those places without great internet infrastructure, people there are just playing games on their phone.
Right.
So it's not even the console thing yet anyways. So I don't
Which
know.
which Microsoft also is creeping in
Yeah,
on that market with this
right.
acquisition. They've got King.
King.
I
Yep.
mean, Candy Crush
Exactly.
is pretty ubiquitous, so yeah, look at them go.
Yep, they've got, like, some real cash cows in their lineup now
Mhm.
that they can
Yes.
there's just gonna these are things that are just gonna churn out money for them, and it goes into the pile that everybody gets to use
Exactly.
then. It gets distributed
Exactly.
to all different kinda groups, and, yeah, makes them elevates them all, so
Yeah, I think I would be more nervous about this acquisition if we hadn't seen Xbox, you know, do that before. If we hadn't seen them like,
yeah.
let's dump money in the pile and then let's diversify. If
Mhm.
we had, like you said, if we had seen them develop like one type of game, throw all their support behind one type of game, yeah, this would be absolutely terrifying. But I think it
Yep.
is I think it is more of a like a communal development spirit.
Yep.
Obviously not everybody's gonna get like exact equal parts of
No,
funding.
right.
That's never the way it works, but I think, they'll get a fair shot at more for, as long as they can produce.
Yep. Yep. Alright, so that's that megaton of a story.
Oof, hammer
New
drop.
biggest yeah, biggest game acquisition. I think it's the biggest cash acquisition in history for acquiring a business.
I mean,
I think. Someone can fact check me on that if they want,
yeah.
because I think it is because every other
I
deals
wouldn't not believe you.
have dealt with stock options and stuff,
Sure.
like, there's lots of other elements to the deal. This is just, like, money. Here it is.
Mhm.
It's all Dogecoin, actually. It's just, yeah, that's
Oh
all it's gonna
god.
be.
Oh, Activision, you fools.
Um, all right, getting into, off the gaming subject here
Mhm.
and going into, movies and television,
Yeah.
superhero television at that.
Mhm.
Moon Knight. Moon
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
trailer.
Yeah, dropped it this last week. They actually dropped it during Monday Night Football. That was the first time they had premiered the trailer for Moon Knight, which I had to laugh at a little bit. That was like a very strange audience to drop that to.
Think so?
Especially I do, especially Moon Knight. It's not like I don't know, he's not like the manliest of superhero. He's not like Thor. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know
Mhm.
what I think of like when I think of football audience? I think Peacemaker would have been like a really hilarious trailer to drop during Monday Night Football. Um, or like I
Okay.
said, something like Thor, Iron Man, Spider-Man, something like really core. But I think Moon Knight was a gamble. Um, but it was a sweet trailer. I really enjoyed it. It didn't give me a whole lot of insight on who the character was. I haven't really heard of Moon Knight before. I mean, I've heard of Moon Knight, but I haven't delved
The
too deeply into the
familiarity's
lore of
not
it.
there,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
not familiarized. So it didn't give me a lot of that, but it did tease me to like learn more. So well done on the trailer.
Okay. Just to jump back for a second, because Alan posted in our chat here.
Oh,
So this doesn't say specifically whether this is a cash deal, but it is just saying for acquisition period.
it's
However,
the
that deal
largest.
broke down. Yeah, the largest deal being 180 billion for Vodafone Group buying Mannesmann AG.
Yeah.
Okay, you know.
Wow. Wow.
So, all right,
That's
Microsoft. I
insane.
mean, what are you gonna do about that? The deal back in 2000. You gonna let that stand? I
Oh my
mean,
god, I can't even imagine, like, for inflation, I wonder how much that would be today.
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. 20 years on now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Moon Knight. Yeah, I thought I thought it was a cool look.
Mhm.
Um, cool tease. I
Mhm.
approved. I also don't know much about Moon Knight. What I've learned from it is from Pete, who we've had on the show.
Sure.
He is a longtime diehard Moon Knight fan,
Mhm.
and so I got his impression a little bit. Um, he he is personally a little disappointed that they're taking the kind of split personality or insane Moon Knight element where
Okay.
he's like unaware because I guess originally Moon Knight was not that so much. He was a little
Right.
more analogous to a Batman kind of figure, and he'd be
Right.
fighting monsters like werewolves. I guess Pete's like there must be a werewolf confrontation must happen. So yeah, the little newer take he's is not the take he wanted, but
Okay.
I think he's still excited. So I'm
Yeah, I
excited.
think
For me, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, I think part of it probably has to do with Oscar Isaac. Because I
Okay.
think even from, like, the short snippets in the trailer, he does that so well. He does that,
Mm,
like, confused, "What am I doing?" and
sure.
flipping back and forth so well that I think, they couldn't not take advantage of that talent and tell that story. I actually think it makes it harder for the audience to get into. They're taking a bigger risk by telling this story of like losing time and like multiple personalities. Because it's not clear to me, like from reading some of the backstory, how much he is aware of his multiple personalities
Right.
and when he's aware of them. So, um, obviously this show is hinting that it's taking the route that he's in a place where he doesn't know about it. Um, so yeah, so I find this very interesting and very, very risky on the part of Disney.
Okay. Nice. I mean, I think it feels different enough from everything else, and it
Mhm.
gives me hope for whatever they end up doing with Daredevil. Honestly, it feels a
Mm.
little
An
darker.
echo.
Um, yeah, I hope that it is a little bit darker. I hope they
Mhm.
kind of lean into that and feels like its own thing. And um, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, they really
That's
didn't give us a whole lot in this trailer, but like I said,
no.
they definitely enticed me with it.
Yeah. Right. So what's this other Moon Knight news here? You said insanely sad Moon Knight news.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know. Again, I don't know a whole lot about the backstory of Moon Knight, but I do know that he has very few allies. At one point, he kind of, after he develops these like multiple personalities, he's kind of going rogue. He develops like two very important friendships. One with a Frenchman, and that character appears. I think his name is Jean something. Ugh, gosh, I knew it before and now I don't, of course, because we're live on the air. Um, but he develops this very close friendship, and that part of the story is going to be appearing in Moon Knight. The actor who plays this character died this week, tragically in a
Hmm.
ski accident. So
Oh,
I thought that that was just, I mean, the actor is only like 37 years old.
yikes.
And he apparently plays like a major part in Moon Knight, which, from reading the backstory, um, makes sense to me. But yeah, he unfortunately was off skiing, and was in a collision with another skier and hit his head, and he's passed away. So I think that
Yikes.
kind of, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it kind of casts a pall over Moon Knight. You know, I have no idea if it was going to be one of the series that they were thinking was going to keep going,
Right.
or if it was just like, a one off and done, but pretty tragic to lose what seems like a pretty central character before um, Moon Knight is even dropped.
It'll certainly be difficult for all those involved in the show that are trying to be
Hmm.
excited
Right?
for, the premiere, and they'll be promoting it and everything, and then they'll sit through and watch it and yeah, be reminded of that, and so that'll be too bad. We've had a lot more death in Hollywood as well.
Seriously,
Uh
2022. Chris and I were just talking about this. It's not kicking off to a great start. I mean, we've had just today, Louis Anderson died. Meatloaf just recently died. Sidney Poitier just died. Bob Saget just died. Like, slow your
mhm.
roll. It's only January,
It's like rule of 3. Screw that.
except five.
Not
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Gaspard Ulliel is the actor's
mm,
name.
okay.
So, yep, that was
Much too
something
young.
yeah, I saw recently, and it was just, very tragic that that happened. And obviously, like you said, it's going to be pretty hard, as we approach the Moon Knight premiere to kind of for the cast to get excited about that when
Yeah.
obviously it's such a heavy thing.
Yep. Um, well, heavy, but in a very fantasy context,
Mhm.
is the new Batman
Mhm.
film, The Batman. Something I'm very excited for, the dark take on a darker take on Batman. I mean, we're like, how dark can we go? Um, but the latest news, I'm not super thrilled about.
No, me neither.
Um, the Batman's runtime, including credits, is 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, I thought
Yeah.
Dune was long, right?
Yeah.
Uh, this is
Yeah,
15, 20 minutes longer.
right. I'm thinking about it like it's so strange to me because on the one hand, I think about like Lord of the Rings films and how long they
Yeah,
were. They don't feel all that long when you're watching them. I mean, they do obviously to an extent, but they don't feel as long as their runtime actually is.
right.
So, but that's such an exception to the rule, I think.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of other movies that are that long, like Peter Jackson, King Kong. I felt every one of those minutes in that movie, and it was a good movie, but it was like, my God, it's still going. So, I mean, is this going to be one of those where it's like, I really enjoy this, but dear Lord, like, can I have a Titanic style, intermission or something in here?
Yeah. Are they just counting on the bulk of the viewership watching this at
Being at
home?
home?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
You know, binge culture. It's still a very weird thing to me how it's perfectly fine to watch 4-hour-long episodes of something in a row. That's fine. But then a 2.5-hour movie, I can't sit down and watch that.
Right.
That's yeah.
I
Yeah.
so I feel like it has to do with the nature of the fact that you either feel you can or can't take a break during a movie. And I
Right.
feel like there are two very distinct kinds of people. I am of the persuasion I cannot take a break during a movie. If I've seen the movie,
Okay.
like, 10 times, this is my umpteenth rewatch.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously. I cannot, when first watching a film, take a break. I can't
Okay.
do it. Like, the first time I saw Return of the King, I realized 2 minutes before the movie started, I had to go to the bathroom. Guess who held it for the entire
What
GD
a
movie?
champion. What a
Me.
champion.
I couldn't do it. I can't. I'm so worried all the time that I'm going to miss something super cool and it's going to disrupt the flow of the movie. I'm like super in the story, but I'm going to miss something and it's just not going to ever be the same for me. So I
But
can't
you're
do
gonna
it.
ruin your satisfaction. You're gonna mess up the ride because you're too worried about keeping it in.
I didn't
You know.
cuz I got so sucked in. I was like probably aware again like 10 minutes before the movie was done like shit, I have to go to the bathroom. But for like it got me. Like I was so in there and I was so just like I'm going to enjoy this movie that like yeah, I'm just one of those people I can't disrupt a movie, especially my
Okay.
first viewing. So this one's going to be one of those things where I'm going to have to like sit down if it's a streaming thing, I'm going to have to sit down and like prepare and like
Right.
have a snack and
Mhm.
have everything ready to go and shut off my phone and whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you're one of those people, God bless you if you can get up and go to the bathroom during a movie, then this probably doesn't bother you.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
how you do it,
I
but good for you.
I mean, I have, but, yeah, I likewise, it's is a difficult thing to do. It depends on the film. If it's
Hmm.
comedy, something silly, it's not as pertinent, you
Sure.
know? But,
Yeah, I tend to not like go to the theater for stuff like, lighter.
yeah, now
I've
yeah.
noticed I don't go to the theater for lighter fare, so I do tend to like, I'm here and I'm in it,
Yep.
for the long haul. The thing I always hate though is I love my dad so much, but like he's one of those people who like goes to the bathroom during a movie and he'll always ask me like, "Do you think like now's a good time?" I've never seen this movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
sure, maybe.
Mm.
Oh, man.
If it'll get you to stop talking to me, then go.
Right? Now's a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not directly opposed to this. It's gotta earn that runtime. Gotta
Yes.
earn
Mhm.
my time sitting there.
Yep.
We had another teaser, um,
Mhm.
much like Moon Knight, but way more of a teaser. There's
Yeah.
way less there. For the new Lord of the Rings show from Amazon. What'd you make
Mhm.
of this?
Oh my god. Ugh. I had so many reactions to this. Like, I was all over the place, up and down and up and down. So, I love the end of this. I love where it came out. Like,
Okay.
so we got the title reveal. It's going to be Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. So we're talking about the rings that were given to the elves, the dwarves, and men before, our
Right.
typical Lord of the Rings story. I love these stories. I love them. They are so interesting and I think it's just like such a cool, familiar but different idea. It's so smart. It really is because like everybody already knows about the rings of power. They get it from like the whole journey of the one ring. Like excellent choice in story topic. Also, like I said in the comments, props to like the tech team, the design team, the effects team. They did this whole thing where the trailer was just like one long shot of like um the title being poured into like engraved wood, and like this like hot molten metal was being like poured in. They actually did this. Like it wasn't just like CGI. It was like, no, we're gonna like cast a mold of the title and then like pour hot metal in there and like film
Nice.
it. Cool job. I love that. Great. Big detractions. Um, I have no idea who the bitch is narrating this trailer, but she speaks Kate Blanchett's words. And how dare she?
I know,
Like,
right?
like, I mean, they're so iconic. So it's like this whole like opening speech that we get right at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, talking about all the background. It's Kate Blanchett in her amazing, like mystical, cool, like,
Yeah.
you know, otherworldly voice. And it's so like her and those words are so tied together. And here comes some like imposter thinking she's all
Floozy.
that. Floozy, thank you. Thinking she's all that. Like, says it so pointedly, so much enunciation, so over dramatized. I couldn't. Like, what is this? Like, she even had like in the land of Mordor. What like
Yes,
tone?
yes, yes, that's right. Yeah,
What was that? Like, say it like a
yeah,
person. Oh,
yeah.
it was too much for me. I couldn't. I wanted to hit mute. Like, I love the whole visuals of the trailer. Could have cut out the sound, and that would have been fine.
Why didn't they just have the voiceover that was originally done? Be tying it into why they have Kate Blanchett's narration
I'm
there.
I'm guessing it's because whoever narrated this is going to be a part of the cast. I don't
Right.
know if they have the audacity, if they actually have the audacity to like cast someone else as Galadriel, like a younger version.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
S-
she is one of the bearers of the 3 elven
yeah.
rings.
Right.
I
So they're
believe
gonna have
hers is
base connection.
Nenya, the Ring of Adamant. But yeah, so if they have somebody new come in, I'm out, man. Like, I don't know if I can watch that. And
It should
I
just be
especially
her
don't know if
de-aged, right?
yeah. Like, I
That's what
especially
they
don't
should
know if
do.
I can watch it if it's, like, whoever did the narration on this, because her narration did not give me any confidence that she's not gonna, like, overact the hell out of this part. Whatever it is. So, no.
Maybe they'll make up an excuse why she looks different. Some magic thing. I had to take a new form
Ah,
later.
no,
I don't know.
no.
Just making stuff up, but I just I just don't have I haven't heard any confidence from anywhere
Mhm.
coming out about this show. And I think understandably so, because you have so much to live up to with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You have
Right,
so much weight to just the original source material, and then already having the man himself, Peter Jackson, let most people down with the Hobbit trilogy.
right,
You're like, well, of course this isn't going to be good. So
right.
like it's really on them to prove it. And I mean, yeah, to me so far we got nothing good to go on.
Yeah, like I said, I'm like 60-40 on this trailer, 60% bad,
Okay.
40% good. Like I said,
Okay.
I think the core story idea is cool, and I
Mhm.
thought like the effects were cool, like way to not go CGI, because obviously CGI was a huge complaint in like the making of the Hobbit trilogy. It was a
Yeah,
huge deal that everybody was like,
right.
"Oh my god, it's so much." So, good on you for like listening-ish, I guess. But that really doesn't tell me like what you're going to do with the rest of the series. And obviously, I've already enumerated that I hated the entire voiceover.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what would you think of a they're telling the story but animated? What if they had a high production quality animation series telling this
I'd be
instead.
cool with it. As long as Kate Blanchett voiced Galadriel,
Right? So I mean,
down.
get back to
Totally,
voices.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, yeah, I would totally be into that. I mean, it's not like they haven't done animated Lord of the Rings before. Like, I actually absolutely love, the animated Hobbit. It's kind of ridiculous and crazy, and it's hilarious if you're ever, like, playing a drinking game to it or, like, you doing a
Mm,
little partake, and watching that movie. It is awesome. Um, on its own, it's also, like, a lot of fun to
fun.
watch that
Yeah.
movie. So,
It's
yeah, so
like
I could totally go with it.
that and the Star Wars holiday special back to back. Sounds
Yeah.
like a good day.
That's a good day. That's a
Yeah.
good day.
Mhm. Okay. So this is an interesting story. We're moving into I mean, I should have done that before. I guess we've already been covering British entertainment.
Mhm.
We're going further
Full
down that.
on.
What's that?
Full on Brit now.
Yeah, right. Um shakeup at the BBC. So the British Broadcasting Channel, they're they've been around, I don't know how long. It's been a while. But to my understanding, it's there's a fee that if you're
Mhm.
a member of the British, you're a citizen, you have to pay that
Mhm.
goes towards the BBC,
Yes.
and they are getting rid of that. Um, Crazy. I'm sure that's
Yeah.
quite the change for the citizenry there.
Mhm.
Do you have thoughts? I didn't know this was like
I
under discussion or whatever, but
Yeah, no, I mean, this totally came out of left field. Like, I had seen nothing about it before, so when you posted that, I was like, "Whoa." Yeah. I am highly disappointed about this because, as the article rightly points out, the BBC's already made the cuts it can make behind the scenes and in, like, staffing. It's This is gonna affect hugely, the content that they're able to produce. And not only things, that have kind of traveled over and become beloved, or like high production value things like Doctor Who, but it's gonna affect a lot of like, you know, the period dramas that they do, which, as a student of English literature, Victorian era especially, I do watch a lot of those programs, and it really disappoints me that the BBC is no longer gonna have, you know, a foot in that arena. It's gonna be up to, like, streaming platforms like Netflix if they wanna do those sorts of period dramas, which, they've already dabbled their toe into with their, like, mega hit series, Bridgerton. But that's, like, one thing, that's not what they're known for, whereas, like, the BBC is
right.
like, "We got this. This is, like, our bread and butter. We do this all the time." Yeah, so I'm highly disappointed that this is gonna be happening.
Well, good because I have the complete opposite opinion. um, I mean, definitely there'll be some good stuff lost for sure with this change. No arguments there. Like you say, particularly the historical period pieces, those are not necessarily going to be the largest money makers. And so that's where they get the support in this fashion.
Mhm,
But on the other hand, like when I think of the BBC, I think of Doctor Who and Top Gear, both of which
mhm,
have been destroyed. So, I mean, maybe Doctor Who has a turnaround. I don't know, but it's been a real disappointment for a while now. And then Top Gear, they kicked out the guys that make Top Gear,
mhm,
and so no one cares about Top Gear anymore. Like Top Gear was a thing. Like that's a big deal. And yeah, it's kind of like America tried to do the American Top Gear, no one watched it. They tried to do actual Top Gear again, no one watched it. So the things that my connection points
mhm,
with the BBC um have already been suffering greatly. And then I guess stuff like Sherlock Holmes, whatever. But
mhm.
But at the same time, I'm totally good with a non forcibly funded um like television program. It's kind of like public radio here or whatever kind of thing. I do like that there was a known fee that you have to pay, so you like would understand that this amount is going to fund this.
Mhm.
That's nice. Um, versus just like, well, we're taking some chunk of it somewhere that's just
Where it's
collectively
like
gone in. And
taxes.
yeah, right. So I like the idea that you have to write the check, but I don't like the idea that you're forced to write the check for
Mhm.
maybe a channel that you have no value in or you have no appreciation for or whatever. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's we're gonna lose some good things, but it's kind of a long time coming, and um, hopefully, hopefully there'll be some other. There's enough desire for what the BBC created that they'll be able to either the BBC, what's left, or others will be able to fund future product projects.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it doesn't sound like the BBC is going away entirely. It's not like
Right.
immediately collapsing after this goes through, which doesn't sound like it's happening yet for another 3 or 4 years, possibly 5. Didn't read it quite as closely as I should have, I guess. Um so yeah, so it's obviously not going away immediately, and it didn't intimate that like these deep cuts were the end of the channel. So
Right.
I hope that they're still able to keep things like I mean, they might not be able to do um, Doctor Who anymore because I know those episodes have just gotten like wildly out of control production cost wise.
Right.
So maybe, maybe it's a good thing to force that series to kind of like take a pause, evaluate itself. Maybe it goes back to like, I don't know, back to its roots where, special effects weren't as heavily involved and it was more, kind of grounded, and episodic. Um,
Yep.
but I hope it does still offer things. Like I said, I know I particularly enjoy the period dramas.
Hmm.
I do love that the BBC often will pair with public theater and offer, filmed performances of what's going on at like the
Yep.
Globe, or Shakespeare's Theater in Stratford upon Avon. Like I do love those kinds of things where it's like this is just like a public arts channel for things that aren't necessarily accessible. Um, they seem like they should be, um, but they just aren't because, they're not located exactly where people can get to, or also because tickets are high enough that, somebody can't just like justify spending that type of money to go out to a play for an evening. But like, oh, it appears on the BBC, like I've already paid my, 160 quid a year or whatever, or 160 pounds. Yeah, I'll watch that because I really want to.
Hmm.
So
Isn't
yeah.
it like I think that to me this seems like an opportunity for just as we were talking with Game Pass, where not everything is the headlining
Mhm.
project, the thing that gets the most money or
Right.
the thing that everybody's willing to dump all their money into for, but that fills out a product. To me, it seems like a lot of this stuff is great character to a subscription service. So whatever that becomes or whatever, I think there's a lot of opportunity to have those things available and you know, get these niche things in someplace else that just fills out a library of things.
Mhm.
Also, I'll say that the license fee will be abolished completely in 2027. That's the year
Okay, so it
it's
is 5
done.
years.
And also this statement here from the Guardian, the BBC will have to negotiate with the government over an entirely new funding model when the final license fee funding deal expires in 2027, with
Okay.
potential options including a subscription service, part privatization, or direct government funding. So basically they're going to be coming up to this. They have their 5 year time. We really don't know what's going to happen. You know,
Sure.
um, my radical self is for like, yeah, like make them stand on their own 2 feet. But there's a very real possibility that they're gonna have something else otherwise. I remember wanting to watch Doctor Who and having difficulty because I didn't have access to iPlayer or whatever, in the thing.
Right.
So I had to wait for it, perfect opportunity to open this up to international audiences, give people things at the exact same time. You don't have to make certain deals with US distribution or whatever.
I was gonna say they did try that, didn't they? There was like a BBC like offering of like a subscription service to the BBC in America, and it did not go well, if I
Okay.
recall correctly. Um, I think they tried to do their own like channel, and I don't remember exactly how it was marketed, but I know that it wasn't done well because people were very confused about how to access it and, like, what sort of, like, add-on it was. I know you can add it
Mhm.
on to, like, Amazon Prime, or at least you could at one point because I got offers through there, but it was very confusing and just
Sure.
did not go well. So maybe this will force it to, like, get its shit together and make it more
Yeah.
clear how, like, international
Right.
audiences can subscribe to BBC.
Now, one thing I don't know is if this extends, because I know there's lots of BBC, lots of different
Yeah.
channels.
Yeah,
If
there's,
this
like, 7 or 8 different
includes,
channels.
yeah. So, I assume the license fee is for funding all of it. The biggest thing I would have, I guess, opposed to is like, obviously, I mean, I watched the BBC historically. I've watched it quite a bit,
Mhm.
news things and stuff. But it's
Right.
also, in my book, a pretty big conflict of interest to have your publicly funded slash government funded news network, that never tastes good to me. But obviously, it is a plethora of channels. Like you said, if it's
Mhm.
seven, there's just no mention in this, anyways. I guess it's just assumed knowledge at this point. I All those BBC channels get this funding from the same places
I would
for the same
imagine
fee.
so if they're licensed, like, under the BBC umbrella, at least in
Hmm.
part, I would imagine that they would have to.
Yep. Yep. Well, anyways, surprising
Mhm.
story. Kind of came out of nowhere for me. Um, and It'll be something to follow over the next 5 years.
Mhm. Yeah, a very crazy up and down week in the news.
Yeah,
Um,
it's big things.
Big deals being made in the gaming world and big deals being taken away in the television
Yeah.
world. So,
Right.
yeah, nuts.
All right. The theme of the night. The theme of the night. James Bond. Um, the first a news story that I just
Mhm.
saw in looking things up today,
Oh, yeah.
January 21st.
Mhm.
No Time to Die is back in IMAX theaters, supposedly. I say supposedly because I immediately looked up showtimes and there's nothing
And
around us.
okay. I mean, I know they said it was limited, but
Yeah.
I
I
mean, I
mean,
guess I didn't really
nothing in the Twin
realize how
Cities?
limited that meant.
Yeah, because I didn't get to see this in a theater. I'd love to go see it in IMAX. They shot a whole bunch
Yeah.
of stuff in IMAX,
Yeah, they
and
did.
in some of the showings, I guess they have a kind of featurette or something beforehand.
Mhm.
So I I was ready to get a ticket and go, but I don't see it around.
Bummer.
So
Yeah, I did see it in the theater, and I really enjoyed it that way. I
okay,
mean,
yeah.
there
Was
was
it an
there was a
IMAX
lot of
screen?
no, it was not.
Okay, okay,
No, I saw it at the Alamo.
okay. Yeah. Well, that's a fun experience too.
It was.
So. So there's that. They're doing this because this year is the 60th anniversary of James Bond.
Mhm.
Wow. 60 years. So,
Looking good.
yeah, we're going to be talking spoilery about Daniel Craig's run,
Mhm.
as James Bond, our most recent James Bond. He's had the 5 films under his belt.
Mhm.
And yeah, thought we should go through them. We should talk about what we love about them, what we hate about them, our
Mhm.
favorites. what
Mhm.
they meant to us, all that kind of thing. So, yeah, without further ado, Daniel Craig, James Bond, Casino Royale.
Oh my gosh. Technically, this was like 16 years ago, if we're thinking like 2022. Like, I mean, I know it's really more like 15 years, but, technically, since we're in a new year, it's 16. And I knew we were just
Yeah.
talking before the show. I can't believe it.
Hmm.
Like, I just can't believe that this man has been Bond for this long,
Yeah.
and there haven't been just like a slew of movies.
Hmm.
There's only been 5, like, that's averages out to, like, once every 3 years, and, I mean, that's it feels like that's the pace that movies are made nowadays. Like, I know, back when Bond started in Connery's time, like, it was a lot quicker, storylines were not as complicated, like, you could just get everything going and up and running, and you could just crank them out, but I just didn't realize how actually long it's been for Daniel Craig, so
Yeah.
a salute for, 15/16 years of service.
Yeah. I'll um I'll say that so November 17th, 2006, I saw this with your husband down in St. Peter.
I know.
I don't remember what you were doing, but
Chris and I had not met yet.
what? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose we basically just graduated.
Yep,
And so it
2006
was
was our first year of
first.
college.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my god. So yeah, okay, okay, all right. Well,
I
I really
will
don't know what you were doing then.
I will say this is one of the first movies when we first, did meet each other, and started hanging out and realized that we were both, movie
In love?
fans.
Okay.
In love, in lurb. Um, no, but, both realized that we were, like, movie fans. This
Yeah.
was one of the first movies we did watch together. It wasn't
Okay.
the first, but it was one of the first. Um, because
So
we
it's still
both
in theaters? Or you saw
No,
it just
no.
okay, all right.
We were just saw it, like, hanging out, watching TV together. Um, so, yeah, we both quickly realized that, like, we were both Bond fans. This is one of Chris's all-time favorite Bond movies, Casino Royale. It is high up for me. It's not my favorite Daniel Craig one, but it is up there. It is definitely Chris's favorite Daniel Craig movie.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I remember going to that kinda small theater in St. Peter there with
Mhm.
them.
Yep.
It was a good time. I remember, um, though, not being enthralled. Like,
Mhm.
I remember being kinda disappointed with the theme song, and
Sure.
then walking away like, "Well, that's, it's pretty good." So it didn't hit until I bought it later
Watched it again.
and watched it again, and
Same.
I don't I don't know what happened to me because I love the theme song,
Mhm.
and this is one of my favorite movies ever. I,
Wow,
not just in
strong.
yeah, I mean, I say that because when people ask me what's your favorite movie or whatever, it comes up on something, usually now say Jurassic Park,
Okay.
but I've also, in the back of my mind, always considered saying Casino Royale because
Sure.
of how many times I've watched it. I've
Sure.
watched this movie so many times and never gotten
Mhm.
sick of it and always love
Mhm.
it. And so yeah, I don't know. I absolutely love this. I think that it's pretty incredible that so this movie was directed by Martin Campbell and
Mhm.
he also directed Goldeneye. So he is in charge of
Love Goldeneye.
essentially 2 soft reboots, 2
Mhm.
first films for a new Bond, and, Goldeneye was the first to introduce she's on screen now, Judi Dench is M,
Ugh, ugh, so
and
good.
yeah. So it's just a lot of firsts for him, and that quite obviously, that's quite a challenge to manage,
Quite a
and both
challenge,
times
but if I may boldly say, Martin's crushing it.
Yes.
'Cause I absolutely love GoldenEye, and I absolutely love Casino Royale. It
Yeah.
did, like you, take me a second viewing to love it, but I do. I absolutely do.
Mhm. For all you youngins out there, realize the iPhone wasn't out yet when this movie came out. Like, it does not feel that long
Right?
ago.
Look at it, look at his old phone. Look at
I
that
know. Well,
clunky
hit
old thing. Like, clunky but
Sony
tiny at the same
Ericsson's.
time.
Yeah.
Like, it's bulky,
Yes.
but, like, thin. Oh my
Mhm.
god.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think this movie has a great score. I think
Mhm.
has Eva Green is one of the best Bond girls. She
I
absolutely nails
agree.
her role. This movie brings an emotional weight that is absent from a lot of Bond films. A validity. They bring back Aston Martin
Mhm.
for cars. And we were getting some kind of hokey BMWs for a while. They had some cool Jaguars in the one before, but
Yep.
then they turned invisible, and I think that was the first one they brought Aston Martin back in. But it was like
Yeah.
felt real here and respectful. Um, I don't know. There's so much good
Yeah.
about this movie.
Yeah, to bring back our old favorite phrase, the end of Pierce Brosnan's run, definitely jumped the shark a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bond's always had access to cool technologies and, like, things that us mere mortals, could not dream of. Q just, thinks up amazing gadgets for our favorite super spy here. But yeah, I think they kind of realized that they'd really gone overboard um in Die Another Day with the invisible car.
Yep.
And I appreciated the step back into reality
Yep.
here in Casino Royale. Reality, but still cool. You know what I mean? There
Yep.
wasn't a total abandonment, but there was definitely like, let's make sure we're a little more grounded. And I think this movie
Yep.
nailed it really well.
I do have to say I feel bad that John Cleese didn't get more time as follow up Q. You know,
Oh, I
uh,
know.
that's but it's the way it's got to be. And yeah, Mads Mikkelsen as Le Chiffre does great.
Mhm.
We got Felix Leiter back in here. I
Mhm.
don't have a lot of complaints. I don't like the sunglasses that Bond wears in this film very much. I have a complaint about that.
Sure.
Um, and I don't know. I guess the other thing would be that the poker scenes, though done very well,
Mhm.
are they do go on a bit long,
Sure.
you know. But
Sure. Yeah, I think in thinking about this movie, I think for a lot of people it was difficult to wrap their heads around because Pierce Brosnan had been um, such a refined, polished Bond that it was hard to get into like a Bond that was a little more slug it out, a little more gritty, a little more real. You know, we're
mhm,
not afraid to like get into street brawls and kill people with our bare hands, which is just something that like Pierce Brosnan wouldn't do, you know.
right.
So I think that there was a lot of like shock for people in like getting to this sort of like origin story where Bond is brutal. Bond is, out there fighting for his life. Literally, he's
Yep.
not just like happened to be in some like cute little tussle and then has a quippy one liner as somebody dies.
Yeah.
So I think it was a pretty hard left turn, but I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed getting back to a more real and grounded and gritty Bond who wasn't like totally sure of himself, wasn't obviously going to win every fight. There felt like there were stakes again for what he
Mhm.
was doing, and like there was very real possibilities that he was going to lose. And if
Yeah.
we think about the ending, he did. I mean,
Right.
he won fights, but he lost a larger battle in terms of, our Bond girl, Vesper Lind,
Yep. Right.
which I think was another
Yep.
tough thing to take, coming from a string of movies where it was like Bond girl, Bond girl, Bond girl,
Yeah.
they're very
Now this one
disposable.
means something. Yeah.
This one means something. It's really hard for people because they do associate Bond as like such a playboy. It's like having a meaningful, deeper relationship almost is just like off kilter. It's off putting. It's what? Like, why does she get to mean something?
Well, but see, that's part of what I liked about this movie that
Yeah.
um we'll get to where it messed up in the next one, but like
Mm,
they we're seeing the origins of James becoming a double O. And so
right.
he's not I liked the excuse that he's not quite as refined. He's not, you know, he's not always winning. The it opens up with him failing miserably at a
Absolutely.
mission. It's like getting caught at an embassy, like, what are you doing? You know, M gives him a real talking to, all that kind of
Right.
thing. So there's a lot of lessons learned here. And this explains a lot of ways his loose womanizing nature. When you
Yep.
have an impactful relationship like this, you lose that trust, you're
Mhm.
betrayed, and then lose her, even though you loved her incredibly. Like, of course, that those are the kind of things that leave scars. And someone that's in a line of profession where you don't live very long, it
Mhm.
kind of really adds up to making sense for the character. You know,
Right.
imbibing in a lot of vices and a lot of
Yep.
women, you know, to not
Mhm.
only cover the emotional trauma, but just like kind of pushing aside, like, well, I made this mistake before, not happening again.
Mhm. Yeah, like you said, I really loved the opening on failure. Um
Hmm.
because it does remind us that like James Bond isn't invincible, and it does convince us that there are stakes
Right.
because he can lose, and we've just watched him do it. It was actually not to go backwards, but it was actually one of the things I absolutely loved about Die Another Day before it took a huge dive
Mm,
was the
yeah.
opening where he
Right.
gets
Yep.
caught. L
Yep.
Loved it. I was like, "Oh my god, this is so
Agreed.
different." He
Yep.
failed, he was betrayed, like, he didn't win. It was so unusual, especially in the Pierce Brosnan era, and then, the movie just took a hard left, but I feel like Martin Campbell must have been, like, paying attention to that because he essentially does the same thing in Casino
Yep.
Royale to better effect.
Yep. Yep. Right before we move on to the next film, Quantum of Solace, I
Mhm.
want to plug a thing on YouTube called Being James Bond. It's on the James Bond 007 YouTube page. I watched
Okay.
quite a bit of this before we went live. I didn't quite get done with it. It's like 45 minutes or something like that. But it's basically about Daniel Craig's tenor and tenure here, and it's
Mhm.
they go through some of the films and talk about hardships and whatnot, and how brutal the media and people were to him when it was announced that he was being cast. Like everything, like it was a
That
whole
doesn't
big thing
surprise
about
me.
being blonde, and then the Royal Navy made him wear a life jacket when he was boated up to the press, and like all kinds of things. And I guess it stemmed from some kids that really didn't approve putting a whole bunch of rumors and all kinds of things that weren't true online. It really got the press reported on all of it
Mhm.
like it was true. And it kind of got to him, it got to the crew.
Mhm.
Um, Spirits were down, and he sort of like he kind of made a turning point that I'm just gonna all right, we're just gonna crack on and forget about this, because he had confidence in the script. They said the turning point was they had some people like burying themselves in the sand on the beaches, paparazzi trying to like, wait overnight to then like be able to pop up to get a picture, when they're filming. And
Jesus.
someone got the picture of him walking out of the water in his swimsuit. And with
Okay.
that, all of a sudden the media changed. Everybody's like,
Okay.
blonde, blonde, blonde hunk, all kinds of headlines and stuff. And so it completely turned around.
That's
And
nuts.
yeah. So,
I mean, I want part of me wants to say I can't believe people are so superficial like that, but then the other part of me is like, I was definitely when Daniel Craig was first announced, like, kind of a blonde Bond. I mean, yeah, physically, like, it just didn't fit my picture of James Bond, so I
mhm,
had a hard time with it. Did that mean I was gonna, like, shun the character and, like, shun Daniel Craig? No, I was still gonna go see Casino Royale. But yeah, like, I think physical depictions do matter, and when it doesn't line up in your mind with the way you want it to, sure. Like, I can see that there were detractors on that. Do I think it needed to get to such a level? No. Like, obviously people
right,
need to, like, take a chill. But yeah, I mean, I think but I also think part of my hesitation stemmed from, Roger Moore's tenure as James Bond. Like,
right, sure,
like, the combo of suddenly having a blonde, blue-eyed Bond with, I think, the overarching silliness of some of the Roger Moore scripts
hmm,
made me wary that, obviously we didn't come off of a really strong outing for Bond in Die Another Day, so I was like, "Oh god, like, what's
yeah,
gonna happen here?"
absolutely.
Are we gonna lean harder into that? But no.
Mhm.
I was
Think
very
how
convinced
much
once I actually saw him.
think how much harder that would have been. Again, this came out before the iPhone. The internet, I mean,
Oh
obviously
my
it had been around,
god.
but in a
Yeah.
way in its infancy. What about now with Twitter and everything? Like, how would
Right.
this, and now I don't know. It's so
Yeah.
yeah. But that's Casino Royale, the 21st entry officially in the James Bond run. An 80 on Metacritic and made worldwide $616 million.
Mm.
2 years later, also in November, was Quantum of Solace.
Womp
Um,
womp.
so Quantum of Solace, directed by Mark Forster. This one reflected in the Metacritic 58,
Yeah.
and did not make quite as much money either at 589 million. Um, this one was interesting. I've talked about it before. How it was they were dealing with writer's strike,
Mhm.
and they were worried about an upcoming actor's strike.
Mhm.
So when they started filming, I just found this out on that YouTube thing again, is
Okay.
they really didn't have a solid script. They started
Mm,
shooting and they really didn't have much of a script, but they're like, if we don't do this, we're going to be in limbo for, I don't know. So they really kind of hammered things out on the go.
mm.
And I was refreshing in this little kind of documentary. They admitted a lot of their mistakes and that this one
M'kay.
didn't turn out the way they wanted. And they're saying it focused too much on plot and not story. So it's like point A, point B, point C, without
Mhm.
like making it mean something.
Right, how do we get there?
And yeah. So yeah, well, I mean, what are your obviously I can tell, and I mean I know, but what are your
I'm
overall
so good at
thoughts? What are the things that are disappointing to you? Are there anything's redeemable?
I mean, I enjoyed, like, the overarching exploration of, um, Spectre. I enjoyed, like, the fact that Bond didn't get over Vesper Lynd's death, which I think is a running theme to more and lesser extent throughout Daniel Craig's tenure. So I love that that character meant something because to me she was one of the very big impactful parts of Casino Royale, and to see that like storyline carry over, I thought was really cool because it was a commitment to a different type of bond that wasn't just like, even though we showed you like this big emotional relationship in the last one is he's just going to be like love him or leave him. Um, I mean, yes, he has new Bond girls and um there's relationships there, but there's still like a pain that carries
Yeah.
over, and I felt that that was like really great emotional depth for Craig to explore. So, I mean, I thought performance-wise, there were solid moments in Quantum of Solace, But like you said, there was no real aim. There was no real point and focus for this script. It was very like wandery and things connected point A to point B to point C, but you were like, I don't really know why I care that point A to point B to point C happened. Like I know that Bond did things, we traveled here, now we're there, but what are we actually doing? This film felt very lost. Um
Sure.
and as a result it lost me as an audience member, and I lost, you know, my investment in the movie.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, I agree with those things. I think that my biggest overall complaint is that when we talk about what he dealt with Vesper in the previous film, he also has a fling that, or uses his wiles to get information out of a woman in that film as well, and
Yeah.
it's he kind of and then she dies, so he's again learning these lessons, that I feel at the end of Casino Royale, my thought was, well, now he's the James Bond we're familiar with. Like
Mhm.
he's steeled his heart, he is he's not going to have that emotional element. It is going to be jump from woman to woman, whatever. He's just like, we saw how he coldened and sealed
Mhm.
himself off. And so now we're going to kind of have that. But instead, we got a really angsty, angry Bond that was sloppy still. That he let his anger get the best of him to try to achieve whatever he was trying to get done. He really threw things in M's face and didn't, though they had been earning a trust and respect, kind of
Mhm.
like I'm gonna blanking on the word for it, but let that slide in this one. And so I didn't like the Bond I saw, and I didn't think it was
Yeah.
consistent with a character path forward after the previous film.
Mhm. Yeah, like you said, his relationship with M really deteriorated,
Yeah.
and it didn't feel like it served any actual purpose. It was Bond being petulant. It was
Yeah.
Bond sort of like being a teenager
Yeah.
almost, you know? Like this is his like sophomore outing, and like, we had Bond as a newbie and now he's like growing pains of, teenagehood or whatever. But it just didn't feel like an adult who should be um handling the responsibilities of
Right.
a
Of a
spy working
007.
for
Yeah.
MI6.
Yeah.
So it was just a little like ugh, a little cringe,
Sure.
to use some popular terminology.
Yeah, I mean, another thing Daniel Craig addressed in this little documentary is that he's historically had been quite hands-on with deciding things, fashion choices, input on cars, lines, all this stuff, and later films, he's a producer as well. And in this one, he said that he tried to like work some things out with the director, but he decided to commit himself fully to the stunts. And so like
Hmm.
every stunt thing they asked, he said he'd do it, like
Okay.
everything. And so he spent all his time doing that. He didn't help then meaningfully with the script and like fixing that. And in turn, he injured himself pretty badly doing stunts.
Sure.
So I think he kind of learned from that through him, and yeah. I mean, we got a film that does have some cool stunts.
I was gonna say this one
But
was
what
particularly action heavy for
Yeah.
sure, but unfortunately, again, it didn't feel like action that meant something
Yep.
overall.
Mhm. And it was a thing, a Bond where in a lot of ways it lost its identity. I've said this a lot in the past where
Mhm.
it Bond is best when it's being Bond and not imitating something else. And kind of a popular thing or well-known other spy now was Jason Bourne that had kind
Mhm.
of come into the cinematic world. And it had a different style and a frenetic fight sequence kind of thing. and there was direct things in here that felt very pulled
Mhm.
from Bourne. And we even some of the locations, I think Morocco was in both. And then rooftop chase and the way they did the fights and the camera work, like it just felt like desperate to take that bit
Mhm.
of popular content now and
Mhm.
do this version of it. And it just felt like an imitation then.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I feel like, kind of knowing the context of where this film was placed, um, with like the writer strike and, the fear of an actor strike, this was just sort of like Frankenstein together. And it's
yep,
really unfortunate.
it
Um,
is.
I feel like it just should have been scrapped altogether. Like they
Yep.
shouldn't have just tried to like rush it through because yeah, like you said, that if they started with this sort of like, we don't even have a fully fleshed out script, we're just going to start shooting. Oh, yeah, let's, fill in the gaps with like a lot of random fight sequences. Oh, let's like fill
Yeah.
this in and try to like, you know, hide some of our gaps and errors with, imitating a Jason Bourne style and audiences will be like, "Oh my god, it's just
Mhm.
like that. How cool. I loved that." It does feel like this, you know, I don't know, this kind of like identityless
Yeah.
floating generic action film, that doesn't rightfully belong in the Bond sequence, but unfortunately it just is.
Yep. Now, I will say that positives, because
Mhm,
of the way this film is, I don't mind putting this one in ever and just having it on because I do enjoy. I think there's a step up in cinematography, or that it starts to get a little more focused on beautiful. Like there's
mhm,
some cool architecture that's focused on,
mhm,
and I like that. Also, I think the fashion takes a step up. I don't
mhm,
know which one. Pierce Brosnan used to wear Brioni suits a lot, and I think
mhm.
and Daniel Craig got known for wearing Tom Ford.
Yep.
I don't know if this is the film that switched. Um, yeah, I feel like it did. If not, they had different tailor or something. Suits were better. We're getting to we're verging on too tight on some of them. Um, but ultimately, sunglasses were better, shoes were better, like the suits were better, like the more focus on car, like all the fun stuff, fashiony, materialistic things were getting
Mhm.
better,
Yes.
and so I enjoyed that from this film. So
Yes. Visual eye candy definitely took a step up.
yeah, yep. Um, all right, Quantum of Solace done. Now we have a bit of a break. It's a bit of a break. So
Yeah.
2008 to 2012.
Mhm.
Um, Skyfall, the 23rd film in the franchise, officially November 9th, 2012, directed by Sam Mendes,
Mhm.
81 Metacritic. This one broke $1 billion,
Yes, it did.
and rightfully so.
Yes. This is absolutely my favorite Daniel Craig Bond film, hands down. Um, I'm not gonna pretend like Casino Royale isn't a close second, but if you ask me to choose, Skyfall is it. Now,
Okay.
is that partially because I am a Judi Dench stan? Probably. Probably. I
uh,
won't lie. I love that, like, M gets to take a step forward and have, like, an actual storyline and one that, like,
yeah.
really matters and matters also to Bond in a meaningful way. Like, everything about this script, this story, just tied together amazingly and I thought played on some beautiful chemistry between Daniel Craig and Judi Dench, not just as M and Bond, but as
Yeah.
people.
Yep.
It just everything that was missing from Quantum of Solace just got poured into Skyfall and
Yep.
made for a brilliant story.
Yep. Agreed. Everything is a step up here. And when I say
Mhm.
Casino Royale is one of my favorite movies ever, it's funny because Skyfall's better. um, it's it is it does so much right. We have a theme song with an opening
Mhm.
that is great. We have and honestly, almost elevating the theme song of a Bond,
Mhm.
like creating a new standard in a way. Like we've
Mhm.
just, um, we have cinematography really going up a notch. There are
Mhm.
some gorgeous things in this film. I think that this was where Quantum of Solace suffered from an identity crisis. We had the Bourne films was competing against the Mission Impossible films that are all about trying to have the next craziest stunt
Mhm.
that Tom Cruise can train himself to do. This was like luxury premium. We sat on shots of you know ships and stuff. Um, the neon lights of certain
Mhm.
buildings in like China or wherever they go. There's just a lot to really like here.
Mhm.
Again, suits and stuff are on point. The movie just feels premium and
Mhm.
luxurious. It's not trying to have an action sequence every other moment.
Mhm.
Like you say, the story makes sense. We have him on screen now. Javier Bardem
Mhm.
playing the villain here was that perfect line of unique and a little zany, but
Mhm.
creepy and cool too. It's a good blend. You can have the meme or the how what's a better word for it? The really cartoon mustache twirling kind of comic book villain
Oh,
that
yeah, like
that
mustachioed
Bond
villain,
can
yeah.
can go
Uh,
towards,
it's like
but
Snidely Whiplash or something like that. It's like the very,
yeah.
like, twirly mustachios, yeah.
So this just has the right amount of, like, uniqueness, to
Mhm.
him. Impactful story, um, like you say, you point out perfectly the relationship between M and Bond. It's a great closing for her.
Mhm.
Um I just don't know what I don't like about this movie. It's interesting how 2 movies later, we go from the introduction of how James Bond is becoming a double O to 2 movies later. This was, I guess, one issue I get. It feels like there should have been more films in between because now we're dealing with, have you lost a step? That's the
Right.
moment. Like he's like testing his cardio again, doing the training, he's missing the targets and stuff like that. I am a sucker for that kind of story, and it
Mhm.
also grounds Bond in a great way.
Right, again,
So
the failure, the
yeah.
non-superhuman, you know, you've
Yep.
lost a step. I agree with you. If Bond were one of the things that we could do in binge culture, it would feel absolutely shocking. Are you missing a step?
Mhm.
Movie coming just 2 films after his
Yeah.
introduction. Because there were an actual number of physical years between these
Mhm.
movies, there's 6 years between his introduction and his missing a step. It felt like a really long time as an audience
Yeah.
member. So I did buy it, in the sense of the opening sequence setting up really well that James Bond has, been doing things over these years that we haven't seen him. He's grown into his role. And, not only is it just like out of the blue, have you lost a step? It's like, have you lost a step because somebody shot you
Mhm.
during a mission and, like you decided to just like fall off the face of the earth and do nothing. Um, so yeah, so I thought it was a really clever way to like acknowledge the passing of time plus
Yep.
like external factors.
Yep. This movie also does something really amazing that, it both at once feels like an end of an era, and we do get that with Judi Dench's M going away,
Mhm.
but at the same time, a really new beginning.
Yes.
When it's done, it doesn't feel different. I feel more at home than ever. Like
Mhm.
he's on screen now. We have new Q, we have
Q, yeah.
Moneypenny, we have
Mhm.
new M coming in, Ray Fiennes coming in. It's all new, but at the end we get the like leather bound door and stuff, and just the familiar office. They're like
Mhm.
calling back to older Bond films. It just feels right. And I
Yes,
would have been completely content with this being Daniel Craig's last film.
I agree.
It felt like somehow the beginning and the end, and
Mhm.
it was just I don't know. I can't really rave about this movie enough. I think if you're looking at and want to study action films, this is this is the one.
Mhm. Yeah, I would
So,
absolutely have to agree with you. I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of action sequences, there are both cool things that are, kind of blow your mind types of stunts, like when we're in like those high rise buildings and,
yep,
James Bond is like scaling the elevators and we're almost falling out and like all of those moments are like whoa crazy moments. But then when you get back to the titular Skyfall and the
yeah,
basically hunting lodge that it's become,
yeah,
not so much a manor house anymore. It's just like an old fashioned shootout. I mean, it's so grounded and real,
yeah,
but but by that point you're so emotionally invested that it gets your heart pumping just as much as those like riskier, crazier stunts do. You're just
yep,
so invested in the action. So,
yep, yep, exactly. All right, we're in agreement. Um, so that brings us to Spectre.
mhm.
Spectre. We have 3 years. Then November 6th, 2015. Also
Mhm.
directed by Sam Mendes, but this
Mhm.
one drops down to a 60 Metacritic.
Mhm.
And $880 million.
Still,
Um,
I mean, the second highest grossing.
yeah. I mean, coming off of Skyfall, how can you not get people into the seats, right?
Mhm.
And you can advertise it, same director. I
Right?
mean, um, how did you feel about this one?
I felt like I ended up liking this movie more than I thought, but it was hard not to be let down after the pinnacle that was Skyfall.
Okay. Yeah.
When I really sat down and thought about it, I think my initial reaction was disappointment, but I had expected disappointment. Um, and when I sat down and thought about it, I thought that there were elements that I liked more than I thought I would. And overall, I liked the movie better than I thought I would. But that was grounded by the fact that I knew I was never going to like it as much as Skyfall.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was very complicating.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a very, you know, it was a difficult thing to do because like you said, it felt so much like Daniel Craig could go out after Skyfall and there was kind of a possibility that he would, you know. I know in this one particular also he kind of put his body on the line and had done a lot of different stunts and was like physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted with playing Bond. Um, but I had also felt that way about Quantum of Solace, and so I thought perhaps Skyfall would be. And then Spectre was coming, and okay, it's not going to be, you know, Daniel Craig's last outing. Um, yeah, there were a lot of mixed emotions with this movie.
I agree. Mixed emotions is the way to say it because um when I would have been I love Daniel Craig, and so it would have been sad for me to see him be done with Skyfall.
Mhm.
I would have been okay with that. And going on to this, I'm like, well, okay, we have the same director, so that kind of got my hopes up.
Right?
When I first saw it in a theater, I profess I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I also had quite a bit to drink. So my interpretation upon initial viewing was
Having a
not
good
the most,
time.
yeah. And I think what stands up for this film is again the cinematography and the
Mhm.
opening sequence in Mexico City, having the
Yes.
Dia
Oh, I
de
do
los
love that.
Muertos costumes and the whole that was great. I really liked it.
I
Um,
agree.
but then the film kind of, for me again, it had a lot of promise. Christoph Waltz, I think, is a great cast as a Blofeld,
Mhm.
um, but incredibly underutilized.
Yes.
Um, this is probably a villain that should have been set up a couple films ago, background entity, and then we spent
Set
some
up
time.
better, I think you mean,
Yeah,
right?
be-
Because like, we
right.
had reference, we had mention, but we didn't have any, like, real understanding.
Yeah, right. Because the organization that I forget what's his face, they're like trying to destabilize places, and they get all their
Mhm.
water rights and all that stuff in Quantum of Solace. Like, you know, we see, yeah, the big picture here,
Mr. Green,
Spectre.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, ultimately Blofeld feels wasted. Um,
Yes.
and the film came down to a plot that felt too generic. It was too um I forgot what exactly the threat was. We got a picture of him on the screen right now, Moriarty. But he's um what were they were trying to do? It's like a data privacy thing was kind of
Mhm.
the issue they were tackling in this film. And I just don't remember how it went down
Yeah.
exactly. But it came to me to be too much of someone's going to destroy the world, Bond has to stop them. We're going to have a big explosion at the end, and it just didn't. I don't know. It felt hollow to me after a while. Alan gave us, let's see, Max Denby have a new joint intelligence service and agent for Spectre heavily involved with their plan to merge
Nine
nine
Eyes
national intelligence
Committee. That's
agencies into. Oh
right.
yeah, that's right. Okay. So that's a cool setup, I think. I
Yep.
don't know. Execution. The first time I watched it again, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I second time I watched it, I really thought it was kind of a letdown.
Mhm.
The gadgets and gags didn't work for me as much that they tried to incorporate. Um, I thought it was cool to have Monica Bellucci in there,
Mhm.
but she wasn't in there for long. Um, Leah Sado, I simp for Leah Sado, so I guess that's a big positive for me. But but yeah, I should watch it again. But yeah, it's a mixed bag. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading a little bit about, the plot, and like you said, I mean, and like Alan, thank you, helpfully provided. It is a lot about like intelligence gathering and who gets to have like this sort
Yeah,
of ultimate, surveillance weapon. And is Spectre going to be the one to like take it over from this person who's developed it? It's not always super clear to me in this film how everybody ties in. They just sort of
mm,
like throw a lot of names at you, and just sort of like, this person is like developing this thing, so now you have to go see this person who's gonna like take you to the next clue. You know, it's a lot to absorb, and it asks you to take a lot on faith without explaining a lot about how Spectre works, what Spectre means, what like Blofeld, who and what he means in like the Bond lore. Like you said, I think Christoph Waltz was woefully underutilized in this film.
yep,
Um, so yeah, so it makes the film makes a lot of leaps and expects the audience to get there. And we've talked before about how we hate like spoon feeding the audience, but I think this film holds a little bit too much back from the audience.
okay. Well, they don't hold back in terms of gadgets because that was another point that
Yeah.
lost me was when he's like being tortured and there's some complicated
Yes.
device coming around.
Share
It's like
thing.
yeah, this is unnecessary. It's not.
Nope. Nope. I felt like it was like a weird callback, but also update
Yes,
to
exactly. Goldfinger.
yes, and
Yeah,
I didn't need it.
no.
It
No.
was poor. It was poor update slash
You
substitution.
expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to
I
die.
expect you to die.
Yeah. So so that's that one.
Mhm.
Then we have another sizable break.
Yes.
I
6
mean,
years.
wow, right?
Yeah.
Um, No Time to Die, the newest one, the one that
Okay.
maybe the biggest spoiler warning for everybody.
Before we get into it, I just have to
Okay.
say I can make no promises that I will not at some point call this No Time to Kill.
Okay.
So, if I do, please know I still mean No Time to Die.
Okay. All right. I will know what you mean. No
Thank
Time to
you.
Die, the 25th entry in the Bond franchise, directed by Kari Joji Fukunaga,
Mhm.
68 Metacritic score, took in 774 million, so
Mhm.
less than the previous entry, the second most for a film, I believe, from 2021.
Mhm.
And I hope that this is still in some second run theaters or whatever.
Sure.
And then there is that supposed to be limited re-release in IMAX today.
Right.
So hopefully that's available somewhere. I'm I'm hoping that this movie can creep up a little further yet. Um, what do you think of it?
I really enjoyed it, actually. I think part of the enjoyment for me was start to finish knowing this movie was a swan song for Daniel Craig, and it
Mm,
really felt like it was a platform designed for that. And so I felt like a lot of the pressure for me was taken off, where I could just like sit back and enjoy Daniel Craig as Bond, like enjoy some fan servicey things to sort of like, do a little head nod to different parts of his tenure as Bond and not have to worry too much about plot. But in the end, the plot surprised me for being stronger than I thought it was going to be.
sure.
So like
Yeah.
there I was pleasantly surprised at like, hey, this is like a plot I think I actually care about. It's a good story. It's not maybe um the most grounded in reality that, Bond has ever been, but like it's a credible threat. It's immediate. It makes sense where everything is coming from. And I think the only real major drawback for me was Remy Malek. His
Okay.
villain um just didn't have a lot going for him. He was so interesting as a concept, but I don't think he was given enough to do.
Okay.
I I mean, maybe it was like Remy Malek's acting choices, I don't know, but I just didn't really feel threatened by him.
Okay. All right. Sure. Um, yeah, again, this is the first Bond film in a long time that I didn't see right away in theaters, basically.
Mhm.
And I've expressed before being very disheartened at sort of the early press and the weird, like,
Mhm.
roller coaster ride of a release cycle,
Yes.
stop, start kind of thing. Um, it was it was pretty, and then my disappointment in the last film. I think if I had
Mhm.
really loved the last film, I think I could have weathered those ups and downs better. But I really wasn't super anxious to see this, sadly, as a big Bond fan.
Mhm.
So when I got to watch it, I was pleasantly surprised. I really liked it. I thought it was very well done.
Mhm.
I'd never heard of this director. It's very young.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't have a lot of complaints. um, things I it does you're right, it does feel like, there's a lot of appreciation for the past, a lot of head nods and stuff like that. There's a portrait at one point of previous M in the hallway. That's great.
Mhm.
I kept getting theme song notes from other Bond films throughout the
Mhm.
film. I'd be like, I
Mhm.
can't quite place which one that's from, but it's
Mhm.
being used here. So I appreciate Hans Zimmer's effort in that. And the film
Yep.
actually wraps up with just straight a song from a different Bond film.
Mhm. It
Um,
does.
so I think that's cool as well. Um, Le Motif, what's that, Alan? Am I missing something? I'm out of the loop here. Um, there is let's see.
Yeah, it's a
s-
yep.
Oh, dominant recurring theme. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
it's
It's like what you associate, like, with, it's like a musical passage that you associate, like Darth Vader.
yeah.
Do you immediately hear music in your head?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
Jaws or whatever. Yep.
Yep,
Mhm.
exactly. So, like, it's a basically a musical association. Yep.
Yep. I mean, how do you see a shark and not think those few
Dun-dun.
notes? Yeah. So, yeah, I think Bond films are known for their crazy openings and had a good opening shot, like scene. It was just the way the camera worked on it and stuff. Again, keeping up some of the cinematography values there. Um, we have all the time in the world using that line. I wrote that
Mhm.
one down. Um, let's see what else I like. And they had I liked seeing Felix back, and I thought it was kind of a
I
good
did
comedic
too.
relief to have that annoying guy they called the Book of Mormon, whoever. That was
Oh, Logan
fun seeing
Ash.
him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, I was proud of myself. I was looking at the phones in this film. And it's like, okay, what kind of phone is this? Because Sony doesn't have anything to do with these films now.
Mhm.
This film has nothing to do with Sony. And it's like, is it Nokia or Motorola? And then later they showed it was Nokia, so I was happy about that. Um, he had lots of puns in here,
Mhm.
puns galore. So yeah, I liked a lot. It was emotional. Again, Leah Sado being back, wrapping up that story. I thought they started the movie off emotionally.
Mhm.
Having that split was pretty powerful, and then it gave a lot of weight to Billie Eilish's song as well.
Yes.
Like when that credit sequence started to roll, and we had that theme, it meant a lot more all of a sudden.
Mhm.
So it elevated the theme for me.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
Billie Eilish did a really great job. I actually really loved the theme song for this movie.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure I was going to, and then, like you said, it really fit tonally with the film. Um, yeah, really enjoyed the credits. I do have to say, I don't know that we mentioned this, but I did love, like, the film's opening sequence being about Madeline Swan rather than James Bond.
Sure.
It was
Yeah.
cool. It was a fun way to, like, introduce a villain for a film, um, and introduce, like, how important another character was gonna be in this film. And
Yep.
again, I thought, like, beautifully shot. Like,
Yep.
cinematography was just, like, on point.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. There was a really good I love the focus on the cars. Callbacks
Mhm,
again to there's a older V8 saloon Aston Martin that's I guess a callback to one from The Living Daylights, Timothy Dalton film. The DB5, the car chases were really well done. They're very frenetic.
mhm.
I bought them. It was a right amount of I don't know, the tension when the car's just getting shot at, and Bond's like sitting there like, am I going to I have another person that I feel has betrayed me, love of my
Right,
life. Like I've let someone in
right,
again. Am I just gonna let him bust through?
right.
Do I just
Like,
let it happen?
maybe.
Yeah. And so I liked that drama. I like that we
Mhm.
get you know, it's very sad with Felix.
Oof,
Um,
yeah, that was
so
rough.
is like a lot they managed to do the things that I think they've done best in the Daniel Craig time as Bond and make it emotional. Make
Mhm.
there be a meaning things, make there be a weight.
Mhm.
And I think that this film really brought that back when the last one was missing it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there could have been a weariness in this film at using Bond has retired again. And now
Yes.
we're like somehow bringing him back for service. And this film managed to skirt that really well. You know, like with the
Mhm.
emotional weight of Madeline's potential betrayal, like you really felt that. Um, and like, you know, Felix being the one to draw Bond back
Yep.
in instead of like MI6 coming after him. I think there was really clever ways of, you know, tugging at our heartstrings in one direction about, oh, we thought, he was riding off into a happily ever after. There's now a betrayal. We can't let it sit too long though. And now, oh, look, we have another old friend coming back, drawing Bond in, and we need like a distraction from this betrayal. Really well done.
Yep.
Like nods
Yep.
to Bond's past and also using a familiar trope, but in a better way.
Yep. And then we get a really fun I love the sequence in Cuba. And I think
Hmm.
that the Bond girl we meet here is a lot of fun. She has
Yes.
a spice of personality that is it's almost like a callback to ditzy Bond girl of some other films, but then she's like super capable. So it's
Yes.
just she's just fun. She's
Yes.
fun to watch, and
And
their
this film needs
interactions
that.
together are good. Yeah, it needed that brevity, and
Yep.
this provided that. So, and then it got dark. Everybody's like skin is
Right.
bubbling and stuff. But yeah.
Right. No, but I mean but like you said, we needed that break for a little bit because we went through a lot of heavy things in very short order and we needed some lightness. We needed some fun. We needed some good old-fashioned James Bond dressing up, going to a party, you
Yep.
know, having a sexy Bond girl with him. Like you said, it doesn't mean she can't be capable. Um, but, she just needed to just bring it up a little bit and bring Daniel Craig up out of it.
Mhm. Yep.
So yeah, kudos to Ana de Armas for that.
Yep. Um, I want to talk a little bit because we kind of gone through what they mean, our general thoughts on the films or whatever. But like, if we can, let's talk a little bit about the theme of the film and just I put like I started writing the quote like "Road to Hell." "Road to Hell is paved with good
Mm.
intentions." So just
Oh, sure.
with the idea that this is on M. This is a
Mhm.
secret project. It's oh, it was never designed for this kind of thing. When it's pointed out, it could be used for mass genocide and all this stuff. Um, and then you get the dilemma at the end, like, do I do this? Do I fix my mistake at the expense of my terrible mistake being exposed? So it's
Mhm.
a good character moment for him. But then also just a debate, I guess, like where is the line for good intentions? Where is the
Mhm.
line for this? Like, is it understandable for someone to be like, well, we have this nanotech essentially that we can use to eliminate collateral damage. We
Mhm.
can have very specific targeting with zero unintended consequences,
Right,
unintended
repercussions, yeah.
deaths and stuff. Yeah. But obviously, that's in the eye of the beholder who wields such great and immense power.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's believable enough for, like the next stage of development of this kind of warfare. Like when you think of where things have already gone and technologies that we already have, like think about, the development of drone strikes. Well,
Mhm.
that was designed to prevent casualties on, you know, on behalf of like the pilot who doesn't need to be there and doesn't need to, get shot back at and therefore
Yep.
die in whatever strike. So I feel like human nature is always looking towards developing that technology that is going to do like the necessary thing with the least amount of damage.
Yep.
So this felt very believable to me and it felt very real that M developed this, like you said, with good intentions. Um, and us in our outrage in the movie, after like it's completely gone awry, we can still feel that outrage, but we also feel, I think, at least for me, that empathy of like, "Gah, I know you thought this was gonna go well, but like, did you really not think like this could fall into the wrong hands? Like,
Right.
oh, were you like naive like that? I don't know. It's really hard because, hindsight is 2020. So of course, us in the movie seeing how badly it all goes, it's like, obviously this was always gonna go terribly, but it is at times hard to fault someone for those good intentions. Like I think about Avengers, Age of Ultron, Tony Stark like develops Ultron with this really great intention of, like keeping the peace and like what if, Avengers didn't have to respond to all these threats and like lives weren't on the line like this and we could stop threats before they start. Terribly, terribly wrong, but the intention there is good.
Well, look at it this way, and this is very obviously very much more benign example, but when you're um if you have to write a check for something, that's a process. Like it means something because it takes time to write a check. Or if you have to pay
Mhm,
someone in cash, you have to get
mhm,
cash, you see the dollar amounts and you give it to someone. If
mhm,
you have a credit card stored in something and you have a game and you have a bunch of microtransactions available to you, it's really easy to just push a button and buy
mhm,
more and buy more and buy more. It removes all like feeling of consequence. And so
mhm,
part of the issue, and I think they've talked about this in Bond movies as well, is with drone strikes or whatever, when you can push a button
mhm,
and eliminate a life, the consequence isn't there. No one looks that person in the eye to see them die. No one has to risk their own life. No one has to order their own men to go and risk their own life to do this. That sets
mhm,
a threshold of importance on the target, the goal, whatever, the asset, when the stakes must be worth it, the
mhm,
risk. So on the one hand, I completely understand the idea of, well, if we can just have robots wage war for us, we can just hit a button and missile strike whoever we feel like, and they're just done without any risk to our own soldiers. And of course, that's easy for someone to say that's not in that risk. Um, the why, of course, that's a benefit.
mhm.
But to me, maybe bigger picture, or at least this is the quandary, is what I've discussed with the impact and the understanding the needing that burden
Mhm.
of consequence to temper your actions.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Um, I mean, this in this movie, I think it gets a little bit convoluted in the sense of like on the one hand, this was developed as like robot nanobot technology that would be this sort of like push a button, these nanobots go like attack whoever their DNA encoded to attack. And then it sort of gets a little bit twisted in the fact that like these people carry nanobots in their skin and like touches end up killing people. So there is a
Right.
weird, like, still human element of risk. It's so much more minimal than, like, somebody fighting to get somebody and, like, shoot them with a
Right.
gun or something, you know what I mean? It's much more casual, but there's still this weird sort of, like, it's robots, but it's people.
Hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this
Yep.
this movie, I think, like, starts out with the idea that it is so remote, and then it gets so very personal.
Yep.
And I like that about this movie, but I think that the consequence is lost a little bit, or the idea that this is being developed and it's a little bit more consequence free or maybe conscience free
Hmm.
because you don't have to send somebody into that much danger, but then it like kind of flips around and
Yep.
we lose that moral dilemma because it does become so personal and consequential for Bond.
Well, and I think that's one element. And the other is in all this stuff. So when we talk about AI or in weapons of mass destruction, whatever it may be, bioweapons, it's um, the from an individual's perspective that you have your own goals and allegiances and whatever. You're like, okay, well, you believe you're in the right, you're doing this thing. And
Mhm.
though what I develop may become could fall in the wrong hands, if I don't do this, someone else that's our enemy is going to do this first because
Mhm.
there is we're not in a echo chamber, we're not in a sandbox with one or two players. When we're on a worldwide scale, there's absolutely going to be people that have ultimate control and no uh like second thoughts hardly on what they're doing and the potential consequences. The goal is to win,
Mhm.
and consequences be damned in a way. So that's to me the question Mallory asks himself or must have is, well, I see the good in this. I see the potential good available here. The way to reduce casualties. Yes, there's a danger, but if we don't do this, if we don't get this tech first, if we don't harness this, we're going to be behind and someone else is going to do it. And it's going to mean the end of us because that's absolutely the world. And that's, I mean, if you listen to certain people, like the idea of whoever gets to general artificial intelligence first runs
Mhm.
the world. So like
Right.
there's those kind of like larger threats to humanity and to civilization that Bond tries to tackle at different points, and to me that's where this goes,
Mhm.
and why I can sympathize, and it makes it a difficult decision. Like,
Yeah.
fundamentally I kind of reject the idea that anyone or any entity should wield such power,
Mhm.
but I also am in the real like a realist in the terms that if someone there are people out there that if they can, they absolutely will.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's so funny because in in thinking along those lines, like, you basically end up developing that technology for the very people you're trying to keep it from. As this
Yes.
movie very adeptly points out, like, if M hadn't been of that mindset and like, well, somebody else is going to develop it, so we better develop it first. It it may have been years before it was actually developed.
Yep.
Um but instead M like pushes that cycle forward and then just like sort of serves it up on a silver platter for Remy Malek's Safin to steal and be
Yep.
like, "Cool, thanks. Totally appropriated this. Really
Yep.
fits in with what exactly my plans are, so thank you for
Yep.
developing that, and I didn't have to do the work."
Yep. So in this complicated issue that can be spanned across many things in
Mhm.
life and in the future to come, can we say that the best course of action is one of a preventative nature instead? So as opposed to like, well, it's inevitable, this crazy technology is going to happen, this crazy powerful tech. Maybe our resources are better spent at preventing our enemies from developing said tech. Everybody spies on everybody to try to figure out what they're capable of, what
Mhm.
technologies you're developing. Maybe, like you said, maybe that this kind of technology in this universe would have been very far off had they
Mhm.
not like kind of found the way and pushed that forward and funded it.
Mhm.
And so maybe just like trying to do what they can to make sure others don't have developed such a thing is a better use of resources. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, um, who knows, like, what sort of funding went into developing this project that could have, like, been aimed at, you know, saying, like, we're entering into an agreement, or, like, saying above board that we're, not gonna be doing this, and then below board, basically sabotaging anybody, or,
Yeah,
slapping
right.
sanctions on, like, an
That's what
organization
the
or a
double O's
country
are
that, like,
for.
does. That's a what?
Yeah, that's what the double O's are for. You
Yeah,
send them in, oh, they're
exactly,
developing this
exactly,
thing, yeah, yeah,
right? So, yeah, so, I mean, yeah, I mean, this is, like you said, road to hell paved with good intentions. I mean, Mallory was obviously trying to do what was in his mind a good thing, and, minimize, personal casualties for his double O's,
yep,
and ended up costing a great deal more than he ever thought possible.
yep. Um, so I actually did like Rami Malek's character quite a bit. I could have used a little more time with his motivations
Mhm.
personally. I think that was probably the biggest thing missing, as opposed to just someone that's, I understood why he wanted to take out Spectre. That made sense. But beyond that,
Yeah, and
um,
then
you know,
I
yeah,
MI6 and Bond, and
yep.
yeah.
That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, when I say I was disappointed with Remy Malek's villain, I don't mean that I was disappointed with Remy Malek per se, but I just didn't feel it like his character was fully developed. I felt again that he was a great actor underutilized,
Sure.
in
Yep.
terms of being given a story, much like Christoph Waltz. I did love, speaking of, loved his appearance in this movie. It was great.
It's a lot better
Like,
than the previous one, yes.
yes. Um, I mean, it was both like a great plot advancement and something obviously that was like, oh my, there he is again. This is a little
Mhm.
callback for, Bond's tenure, um, or for Craig's tenure. So yeah, so I love um that moment in the film. But yeah, I just felt like I needed more out of Remy Malek's villain for him to be like
Sure.
one of the great ones, I guess. I mean, he was fine.
Sure.
He just, when I think of like Bond villains, he's not ranked in my top 5.
Sure. So, why do you think that this film was was met with such a cool reception for many? We see again on Metacritic it's sitting at a 68.
Mhm.
So that's
That actually
better.
surprises me.
Yeah, it's better than Spectre and definitely better than
Mhm.
Quantum of Solace, but
Mhm.
solidly behind Skyfall and Casino Royale.
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at it, in general, I would agree with, like, the rankings that these scores place these films at. Like Skyfall number 1,
Sure,
Casino Royale number 2, No Time to Die, not kill, at number 3, and then Spectre, Quantum of Solace. Overall, that's how I would rank Daniel Craig's films as Bond. Um, but it does surprise me that No Time to Die isn't, like, doesn't have a higher score.
sure.
Um,
Mhm.
and I think because it was divisive on, it being so fan servicey to Craig. I think some people
Hmm.
felt that that really worked and really enjoyed it, and some people didn't. Like from the reviews I've read from critics, um, one critic was like, "Yeah, if I just imagine this as like we're just like giving Daniel Craig a movie, I really enjoyed it. If I
Hmm.
thought of it as like a separate movie in and of itself, I didn't like it."
Interesting.
And then another critic, um, thought that, like, everything was really well paced, like, the storyline was spot on, but it was, like, performance-wise, not his favorite, like, the actual
What?
actors themselves, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
it's
like,
I
very divisive opinions, very, like, all over the map. It was really hard to read this one.
I think it was honestly the the previous film being generally considered a disappointment, and
Mhm,
then the long waits for this one. So I think it was just I mean, again, for me, I think it helped because my expectations were lower. But
sure.
maybe for other people, they just were maybe they're already kind of done with this iteration of Bond, you know?
Mhm,
And the drawn out release schedule. I don't know. I didn't find a lot to not like,
mhm,
short of a couple motivations. There's a lot of emotional elements, and yeah, there were callbacks, but nothing was nothing was cringy or on the nose or really like
mhm.
blatant fan service.
Nothing
Like
felt
the
shoehorned in there, yeah.
yeah, the puns made sense without it being too like wink wink.
Mhm.
And who's going to complain about like the classic cars? And I just the theme, the musical elements, I don't know, I just
Great
don't know what.
settings.
Yeah, I don't think the cinematography is quite as good as the previous two, but I still very much enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, I don't get it. And then like the reveal of the child,
Mhm.
Bond having a kid, I thought that was pretty cool.
Be honest, did
So
you never not think she was his kid?
no, I'm
Like,
like,
I
and
really
the thing
did. I was like, "She's his."
I put in the comments, ooh, a child. Um, Assuming, okay, it's like the right age and all that stuff. So yeah, it didn't ring true that like so shortly after they split that she would have just all of a sudden gotten pregnant.
Right,
Or even during, that would have been, or something like that, because just the timing fit, that
right.
way. So um yeah, and again, love Leah Sado. So
Mhm.
um
What, I mean, this is kind of the biggest, I think, plot element that we haven't gotten to yet. What did you think of the
yeah.
new 007?
Oh, okay. I mean, I didn't like her at first because she's her kind of her foil, or really, it's like the feeling threatened, I guess, probably
Mhm.
is the idea. What are you doing back here, old timer?
Yeah.
Um, but ultimately, I came to like her, and I thought the little kind of showdown again in Cuba made sense. Was fun to get to see her kind of face off and how that went, and then the how she came to respect him. She
Yes.
understood like what he was going through, what he's lost, what he has um at stake, and said, hey, he should take his 007 status back. And then they worked well together at the end. I thought
Mhm.
I thought it was she was a good addition to MI6.
I agree. I really thought all of that kind of tracks with human interaction generally. I mean, when you
Hmm.
think like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I've taken over. I've earned this spot. What are you doing coming back here?" Like you feel threatened by things like that. I felt like they played that well. Again, like we're resurrecting Bond, kind of from a retirement and bringing him back into MI6 and bringing him back into the fold. but we've got like these new ways of doing it, and having a new 007, you know, was a really great way to like bring him back in, but also like kind of keep him at arm's length for a little bit and
Yeah.
like create that, tension of, you know, is he really coming back? Is he really not? Like, is there a place for James Bond at MI6 anymore? Are we really moving on? You know, and is this the future? And yeah, then like you said, kind of resolving that through the movie, um, the two characters working well together and going on that like
Yep.
final mission. I thought that was a really great job.
Yep. So we have to, of course, talk about the
The
biggest
biggest,
spoiler.
biggest.
Yeah. Um, James Bond dies. So we have to, and
Yeah,
I thought maybe they would leave like some room for question, when it was like looking grim,
me too.
but they did not. They
No.
absolutely, I mean, he was engulfed.
Yes.
So I think normally I think it speaks to how good the film is that I was okay with this.
Yeah, you weren't upset.
Um, yeah, because I mean, for the story, it makes sense. And,
Mhm.
there are things that when you have a perpetual series that, this is 25th official film, since 1962, um, there's, you run into those things where you don't have any emotional impact if some dramatic things don't happen. And
Mhm.
so Craig calling it quits on his run, and this Bond, seeing an end. I don't know. It fit. It was emotional for,
Mhm.
um, you know, his love and his now known child, and for everyone else there. But it's kind
Mhm.
of unrealistic as well for the world's greatest double O to never, to live to old age.
Mhm.
Uh, so I don't know. How did this resonate with you?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be more upset about it, and I was upset in a um I can't believe he died kind of way. It's such a tragic circumstance. Um, you know, to have been reunited and met a child, um, only to be, obviously horrifically torn from them. Um,
Mhm.
but it makes sense because how would we move forward
Yes.
with any sort of storyline that way? How would we move
Yep.
forward um with a child that and a love that he could never see? How would we move forward with like knowing James Bond as a dad? Like would we in the back of our minds knowing that and knowing he continues to be a double O feel like he should be holding back somehow because he's a parent? Would there be
Right.
some, I don't know. I think there's always something when people are parents that, you think like, you should be more careful because you have a child to
Right.
live for and you have to like protect them. I don't think James Bond is as effective that way. So, yeah, it really made sense at the end of this. It was like beautiful emotional stakes. Um, it was great because, they gave us that tease of hope that he was getting off the island, mission success, great job. Just kidding, you
Yep.
know, one last final twist and he has to stay. So yeah, all around this really made sense. And I think Chris and I when we were talking about it afterwards, it felt very satisfying because it felt like a clean slate to take a break. We don't I mean, Bond is now dead. We don't have to rush into a new film. We don't have to rush into a new recasting. We can take some time, maybe some, real extended time to think about what's next.
Yep.
because that is one thing that the film did do is, um, promise that James Bond will return,
Yep. Right.
and it very
Yep.
specifically said James Bond, not 007, which I
Right.
think is a very telling clue about, you know, talk about 007 being rebooted as a woman, as a different character. Obviously, we were introduced to a 007 in this movie, but I think that ending title card makes it very clear that she's not going to be James Bond 007.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So that's the question. I mean, well, firstly, would it have been satisfying for him to get away and drive off into the sunset with his woman and child, and then we have our cut, Daniel Craig's gone, it's whatever, and break? Would that have been I mean, obviously we don't have the emotional impact of the
Mhm.
loss, the tragedy, so that takes something away,
Yeah.
but you do end on a happier note that adds something. I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know which is better, but I think that I don't know. Whereas I maybe would have expected this to really upset me, I was okay with it because of the how it contributed
Mhm.
to the drama, and it also helps knowing that at this point in time they don't have any intention of just like, well, okay, James Bond's dead. We're just gonna do something else now. It's
Mhm.
gonna be 007 and not him.
Mhm.
Um, Knowing that helps as well. That
Mhm.
they're not just throwing away the character, they're
Mhm.
throwing away a section. They're closing a
Right.
chapter with this
Right.
character. Because it made me think about, you know, how Bond is set up, and it's kind of a freeing thing where everything else is always like, how does this fit into the canon? Where does this go time wise? How is all this stuff? Bond is kind of whatever.
Yeah.
The only chronology that really matters for this is Daniel Craig's run.
Mhm.
That's it. It's kind of a self-contained. The rest of the Bond things, yeah, there's callbacks and nods and stuff like that. It's like it happened, but kind of didn't
Yeah,
because
they're
it's
callbacks to people, they're callbacks to things, like hallmarks of James Bond, but they're not callbacks to events.
right.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's not like they're walking around being like, "Hey, remember this gold bar we picked up from Goldfinger?" Like, you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
not like that kind of reference. So like you said, the Daniel Craig era is really self-contained. It just nods
Yep.
to hallmarks of the franchise rather than specific moment.
Yep. Like it's there's no previous James Bond film in on Your Majesty's Secret Service, James
Mhm.
Bond does get married, and then
Yep.
she immediately dies. There's obviously no
Y
reference to that. It does not fit into Daniel Craig's timeline or anything like that at all. Like, and I just think that's kind of what keeps the series fun and allows them to be inventive, you know,
Mhm.
because how can you not, after so many years, you can't pigeonhole yourself like that.
Right.
So where do you think they go? Who does some people stay? How do you what do you th I mean, what's next? I know people have talked about maybe spin-off, so maybe James Bond will return, but maybe there is a spin-off that
Mm.
focuses on, um, the 007 we meet in here or something like that. There's been talks for a long time about doing a young James Bond series, like a TV series.
N
Um,
no, thank you.
yeah, I'm
That's my
I'm
first
opposed to all of these things. I'm
Yeah,
opposed to all of them. I just
I agree.
I want a break. I want a
Yep.
like you say, meaningful break,
Yep.
and then let's just come back with you know, with more of the same, but in a fresh way,
Yes.
which is going to be tough, but
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I am attached to some of the characters, Um, but that
But do they
doesn't
keep them?
mean yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean they can't keep them. I mean, obviously, like, John Cleese, Judi
Yep.
Dench, I mean, they spanned
Yep.
multiple double O's. Um, so yeah, so I mean, I would not be sad to see Ben Whishaw come back as Q. I wouldn't be sad for Naomi Harris to come back as Moneypenny. Um, Ray Fiennes, I don't know. I mean, he was looking a little on the older side in No Time to Die, so I don't know. I
I
could like
think that was a call to a reminder of the original M.
yeah,
Like,
I do, but I just mean like it would be harder for me to see him come back depending on some length of time, you know.
mhm,
Like if
maybe.
we're waiting like another 6 to 8 years, I feel like I don't know. I would
He's just
like
older and more
put that on
stately.
pause.
He's more wizened, you know?
I mean,
Um,
M's always older, but he's not like, your grandpa. So
I mean,
there's a line there.
Look at Ray Fiennes in The King's Man.
I know.
Doesn't look too old to me. I think this was a apparel stance. He kinda did the Winston Churchill kind of,
Sure.
like, lean back. It's just like,
Sure.
I don't know, it just felt like they almost aged him up,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
purpose. Maybe they're
Ray
making
Fiennes
him
is one
drink
of those like
more.
yeah, Ray Fiennes is one of those like people that I never actually know how old he is. He looks like he could be 40 for like 20 years. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I'm not actually sure how old he is. Oh, he's 59. Okay. So yeah,
Okay.
he still looks like he
Yeah.
could be in his 40s, but like, if you wait another 8 years, 10 years to make a movie, like you might be pushing it a little bit.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I don't go ahead.
but yeah, I was just going to say like I I want now that Daniel Craig has died, I really want a
Daniel Craig's
fresh
died?
sorry, Daniel Craig's
Oh my
Bond is
god.
what I was starting to
Another
say.
one?
2022, why? Um Now that Daniel Craig's Bond has died, I really do want, like, a fresh new start. It felt like to me that the closing of this, um I preferred it to him, like, driving off into the sunset, you know, living happily ever after. I felt like the emotional impact of this, I felt it both for the character and for Daniel Craig in the sense of, like, we all just, like, breathed a sigh of release, like, "Ah, it's done. He's released. There's no way he could come back." Like, I just felt this, like, weight off of all of our chests because Daniel Craig has had so much, like, emotional baggage around Bond.
Right.
So I feel like it would behoove them to carry none of that forward and just wait, total reboot a ways into the future. Do not do a TV series about young Bond. I don't even know what that would be, and ugh,
No.
yuck.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't mind seeing this 007, and I forget the actress's name, so I apologize for that, but I really liked her. I wouldn't mind seeing her in an action movie, but I don't need to see her as 007. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am
Okay.
happy to watch her. She's great. She did a fantastic job. Um, it's a very delicate balance to Lashana Lynch, thank you. It's a very delicate balance to step into, however briefly, a very beloved character's shoes and sort of assert yourself because you can get that fan backlash. She did it very well. The character was well written. So, yeah, go off, go star in another action movie. Just like, don't let's have a spin-off. So many
Right.
things have spin-offs, and I don't need spin-offs of James Bond.
Yeah. So I think I'm okay with a couple routes. I'd be okay with the route you suggest where we're just like basically complete reboot, all new people, um, fresh start. I would also, I think, be okay with a lot of the returning characters. We still need the break, we still need the pause, but so
Yes.
it feels So it feels familiar. We have an attachment to it's not, you know, if we have an attachment to what's come before, but it can still feel different.
Sure.
And we can kind of just ignore what's come before, even though we have familiar faces. My concern is just how far do they take the idea of fresh new idea? Because I mean, we have some big swings sometimes. So when we go
Mm,
from Sean Connery, he starts getting sillier and stuff, but then we go to Roger Moore and it really goes off the deep end, and then we kind of whiplash back to a more serious Timothy Dalton.
yeah.
And they kind of ease into it with Living Daylights, and then it gets more serious in License to Kill. But um, where does this next thing go? I'm just,
Mhm.
you know, I think that ultimately, uh, the family here has done a good job of stewarding the franchise over so many years. So I can't think that they don't stand a good chance of continuing that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm worried about what's to come. So ultimately, I think I'm just gonna sit and be happy that I was happy with this one. So
Mhm. Yeah, it was a well done, pardon the language pun, swan song, for Daniel Craig. Um, yeah, and it was a very satisfying catharsis for this series to end the way it did. Um, I I mean, there's always like a part of me that doesn't or does regret that like he couldn't have gone out on something as strong as Skyfall, but I think this was miles better than going out on something like Spectre. So I'm
yep,
ultimately glad this movie got made to pay tribute to an actor who did a really great job shepherding Bond into,
the
our
21st
era,
century.
our our
Yeah,
our 21st century. Yeah.
yeah. Alan says full name Ralph Nathaniel Twilston Wickham Fines. Is it not Rafe Fiennes?
It's Rafe, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I've heard
But it's
like
it's
from
spelled that
people's.
way. It's spelled
Okay,
like Ralph, but it's
okay,
pronounced
yeah,
Rafe.
okay, yeah. So I thought. Um,
Yeah. Thank you for phonetics.
yeah.
Can you provide
Well, I want to
phonetics on
end.
the whole name? Because
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. I
know
need some
John
help
was
with some of
taking a
those other
guess,
ones.
and I didn't have any better
Yeah,
ones.
yeah. Well, I want to end on the
Twistleton?
quote of which I respect greatly,
Mm,
despite the writer of the quote. The proper
mm.
function of a man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time. Jack London. And M, of course, read that at the end,
Mhm.
and I approve this quote. I might put it as my new email, like ending signature. But
Mhm.
yeah, so that's James Bond. That's Daniel Craig's run. It really does feel like in the end of an era.
Mhm.
I'm glad I got to finally watch it and we got to talk about it.
Mhm. Me too.
So I'm excited to get
Bef
more people's opinions on it.
Before we sign off, I have to know officially on air, so it's on record. Where does Daniel Craig sit in your roster of Bonds?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really tough.
I
It's really
know,
tough.
I know.
Um, you know, I think for what he's brought to the franchise, he has to be my favorite
Okay.
because I really like Timothy Dalton, but he didn't
Mhm.
have enough of a chance,
Sure.
you know. 2 films. One of them was a little goofy, the next one very good. Yeah, it just didn't have enough of a chance. Um, Pierce Brosnan, I absolutely love because, I mean, he wasn't the first Bond I saw, but I really connected with him. I
Mhm.
really like how cool he is. It didn't hurt that he had such a great opening film to come
Mhm.
in with. Goldeneye is just classic. It is so good.
Agreed.
Um, Being right across from Sean Ben, I'm gonna say Ben. We're gonna go along with your
Bean Ben.
interpretation. Yeah. Um, and all the well, I could go on and on, but that and then Sean Connery is the original, so like they all have a lot of strengths. But I think the acting weight that Craig brings, the care that despite his like frustrations with bursting into being a household name and some
Mhm.
of the whatever, I think the care that he brought to the film, wanting to work with Sam Mendes to begin with. I guess,
Mhm.
in this little documentary, the way it was written in the script, the shower scene in Casino Royale was
Mm.
like, was very different, and she was supposed to be in there in her underwear and stuff like that, and he like, brought the emotional element of, no, like, she's in shock. She's just in her
Mhm.
clothes
Right.
sitting there. We're both staying there. It's just like a moment that's really beautiful that,
Mhm.
like, he brought that wasn't gonna be that way initially. So I think
Mhm.
all those things, having a Bond that a lot of people have said is closer to the books, a little more
Mhm.
brutal, a little more to the
Mhm.
point, I think means something as well.
Mhm.
And, 3 of the 5 films being really good. So,
Mhm.
your pick is still Connery, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It is. So I've thought a lot about though who ranks elsewhere, and if you would ask me purely on looks and austerity, I would pick Pierce Brosnan. Like you said, also
Sure.
does not hurt having just such a cool opening film. Goldeneye to
Yeah,
me is just classic Bond done in all the
yeah,
right ways. Killer song, fabulous villain. Again, a Bond shadow self that like feels so real in the way
yeah,
that um Javier Bardem's Raul Silva does.
mhm,
Like that's just such a great haunting figure, and those two actors like do that so well. That Bond shadow self. Um, but like you said, in terms of like films, in terms of like acting gravitas, in terms of like excellent plot lines happening, Daniel Craig is second for me. Like overall, if I had to like,
mhm,
choose a second Bond based on more than looks, and demeanor, it would be Daniel Craig. Sean Connery to me, there's something about him being like the OG, the original. I think there's something about like the films themselves as well. Um, just there's like a much more feeling of possibility at the time
mm,
of like, you know, of like it doesn't need to be so complicated to be a spy. And I like that about those films. Like everything feels very real, just very normal, like, yep, hopping a train, going across Europe, spying on different organizations. Like everything just feels like, yeah, you could absolutely do this. Whereas like in the 21st century, it's so much more complicated and so much more involved to be a spy. Do I think Daniel Craig does that really well? Absolutely, I do. But it feels like you need more and more in the ways of like technology help to do what James
mhm.
Bond does. So I just like
Con
the simplicity of the Connery era.
and Connery was such a brilliant cast because,
He really was.
you know, he and this is something that the producers have like stuck by, and I think he epitomizes the men want to be him, women want to be with him. It's kind of one of those
Mhm.
things like he's kind of the guy that can get anything done. He's kind of no F's given. He just makes it easy.
Mhm.
He gets what he wants. He's like broad-shouldered and hairy and just like a man.
Mhm.
And women are like, "Yeah, you can smack my ass. I'm good with this." Like it's it he just sells it. Really does a good job of bringing that. I mean, if he had been different, it would have been the type of Bonds we saw with, like, Jimmy Bond and the other
Right.
iterations they attempted to adapt the books. He brought a
Right.
personality and a machismo and a whatever to the role that defined Bond for, for everyone for decades
Right.
to come. So,
Right. Yeah, I think yeah, that's essentially what I'm drawn to in his portrayal is like the fact that like his charm, his personality is what makes a lot of this happen. It's not so much on gadgetry. There's still like cool
yeah.
gadgetry, like don't get me wrong, but like the fact that like he makes things happen. He's the one like using his charm, his wits to do things. Like I like that down to earth part of like being a spy, being James Bond.
Yep.
So I just like that about the films.
Yep. All right. Well, I know we've had a bond conversation before. This is our
Yes.
updated one now. We're like, a little more focused. Sometime
Mhm.
we could do breakdown. This is the 60th anniversary this year of James
That's
Bond.
true.
So we could do other episodes where we
October
break
5th,
down,
yes?
yeah, October
Yeah.
5th. Yeah. So we got time. We can break down other Bond films, do a throwback. We each pick our favorite classic, you know?
Alright. I'd be in,
Pick a
I'd be in.
favorite from each Bond or something like maybe that's too much, but something like that,
Ooh, yeah. I'd be interested to see how often our choices align or don't.
Online, I know.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
Plus, I mean, we gotta get you in that tux again.
I
So we
mean,
gotta do another
we
episode.
gotta yeah, I'm gonna buy some fancier clothes for next time. We'll get real dolled up. So all right. That's been Popcast on the Rocks, episode 91.
Mhm.
Please follow, share, like on all the applicable places. We're on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can find our videos on YouTube, also on Spotify now as well. You can still listen to just the audio version there if you'd like, or most any other major podcast directory. So please leave a review. That helps. Share it out, all that kind of thing. If you made it to the end here, congratulations. You know what an achievement. Perfect. Glad to have you. Like to thank Killing the Flower for our theme song. You can check them out on Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube. And I think that'll about do it from us.
Mhm.
Um, Thanks again for joining me, Andrew, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Cheers, everybody.